Oh, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Happy to be with you today. We've got a fun show lined up on a day I'm going to say, surprisingly large news day, June 22nd, one day removed from the NBA draft, where, of course, the Utah Jazz hold on to pick number 2. We are going to be doing a draft night special for you down at the Engine Room. Smitty, Gordy, Spence, myself. I'm going to Gordy, Smitty, Spence, myself. In order of basketball knowledge and importance. Okay, that's how I'm handicapping it.
So you're just gonna, even though you're gonna be anchoring it with Spence, you're just gonna be as quiet as possible.
There's going to be a lot of me going, Oh, totally.
Trying to come up with intelligent questions for all that basketball knowledge.
No, not even that.
Room.
Not even that. I'm just going to be like, Smitty, AJ DeBonsa, react. It's going to be, from me, I can promise you terrible radio. From the other three, it will be excellent, incisive, incredible analysis of the NBA draft as it plays out down at the Engine Room just off 1300 South. Going to be a fun night. And, of course, leading into it, we've got Kristen Peak joining us today. We've got Bowler, Buckle Up Bowler, Craig Bowlerjack joining us today. Jason Kreis, RSL and Utah Royals president of soccer operations, to talk about this beautiful World Cup we're watching play out. And, of course, on top of that, the impending return of RSL and Royals soccer after the international break. So, fun show lined up, and like I said, a relatively heavy news day. Big news if you're a Utah Mammoth fan on the coaching staff there. Bear Turney has been extended. Blaine Forsythe has been extended. Adam Foote, two-time Olympic gold medalist, Stanley Cup winner, is joining this Utah Mammoth staff. So there was a lot of questioning, hand-wringing, worry, wonder about whether or not Coach Bear was ever going to have, the fastball needed to get this team over the hump, ownership, management, et cetera. I will give credit every time I bring it up. They have been very cohesive in their vision for what they think Utah Mammoth hockey should be, what it has been so far in the first 2 seasons, and Bear Turney has been a big part of that. So he's getting extended as his lead assistant, and they're adding Adam Foote, who, if you're an NHL fan, you've watched Adam Foote on the ice. I don't know a ton about the impact he's expected to have off the ice, honestly, but he did spend some time with the Vancouver Canucks as their head man. So now you've got another experienced hockey lifer on the bench. And Little Bird tells me that Coach Bear is going to be joining us on the Sean O'Connell Show this week. James,
Yes.
Can we officially say that?
We can. It's been confirmed. 12:30 tomorrow. We're going to move the Daily Dump a little bit later in the show to make room for Coach Bear. One of the Coach Bears. In the professional ranks.
Not to be confused with Utah Talons softball head coach, Coach Bear. This is Bear Turney, the Utah Mammoth head coach. So we'll ask him about what he expects, the role he expects Adam Foote to play. But congratulations to everyone who got this thing done, everyone who put this together.
NHL draft also this week, by the way. Kind of sneaky for us as we're still a burgeoning hockey NHL market.
Well, and a little bit less momentous for the franchise. You're not holding a number 2 pick.
Not top 4 like last year even for the Mammoth. Yeah, you're picking later in the first round, but that's also this week, so there'll be plenty of questions for Bear tomorrow on that as well. Going back to Adam Foote, I don't know yet how important that is for hockey to have a former head coach as one of your assistants, right? But we've seen that trend a lot lately in the NBA, particularly with a brand new head coach. The Lakers did it recently with JJ Redick. He's got a couple of longtime head coaches on his staff. The Clippers, Ty Lue's not a new head coach, but he's got a guy like Jeff Van Gundy on his staff. Before that, he had other former head coaches on his staff. So that's a trend in the NBA. It seems to work well in that league. I would think that it's never a bad thing, no matter what sport you're coaching, to have to have head coaching experience on your bench as well.
And again, we'll ask Coach Bear about all this. I think that for this Mammoth squad, I think what Adam Foote brings to the table is just he was a nasty player. He was a physical, he's a pretty big guy, right? 220-ish. And this team, Bill Armstrong, Coach Bear, all these people that have been involved have talked about wanting that to be more part of the Utah Mammoth identity. Now, I think that they're going to adapt the team's sort of reputation, culture, et cetera, to the personnel, because that's what you have to do. And I think there's maybe an acknowledgement happening that, at least in the offensive attack, this might be more of a finesse and speed team than initially planned. But when you look at the recent acquisitions, when you look at the recent draft picks, they have tried to build size on this roster, and Adam Foote is a guy who, if you pay attention to his playing days, he's a guy that knows how to maximize physicality and size. So my uneducated vision of what role he will serve on this staff is to kind of bring that ingredient into the recipe. But we'll talk to Coach Bear about it. We'll see what he has to say. Really fascinating weekend in sport. Obviously, the World Cup going on, and that has really kind of elbowed a lot of other things aside. If you're a hardcore golf fan, you were watching a thrilling and insane Shinnecock Hills U.S. Open. Wyndham Clark ended up winning that thing wire to wire, second U.S. Open victory for Wyndham Clark. And remember when we had John Wright on? Remember when we had Paul Pugmire on? And we were like, all right, 3 guys in the history of U.S. Opens at Shinnecock Hills have finished under par. And at the time of our show on Friday, there were like 7 under par.
Heading into the weekend, there was, I can't remember if it was 11 or 13, but there were double-digit guys under par. A lot of them just 1 under par, OC. But still
under par.
Under par.
Still under par. 1 under counts.
Yeah.
It ended up, and I said, when it's all said and done, is it going to be tripling the all-time number of guys who finish under par? Doubling, quadrupling, whatever. Paul Pugmire settled on doubling, and that's exactly what we got. Previously, 3 individuals had finished under par. In this year's tournament, 3 individuals finished under par. Wyndham Clark ends up getting his second, and he ties Retief Goosen's all-time record in a U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills at 4 under. So, who was it? Sam Burns.
Yeah, he had a great push at the end there.
Sam Burns finished second.
So just the second, their research on Friday, OC. I mean, I'm not going to say your research on Friday. You found that there was it the 2004 one that Goosen and Phil Mickelson both finished under par.
Correct.
This is only the second time a U.S. Open at Shinnecock has had multiple people finish under par.
Hey, Shinnecock, you're losing your fastball. I hate to say it, because the last time 2 guys finished under par, and this recent time 3 guys finished under par. Next time, 20 years from now, it's going to be 4 guys finishing under par. Shinnecock, you're stinking it up.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I thought you were a tough course.
We gotta credit Paul Pugmire for another reason too, and John Wright said this too. But not only did he nail it with it's going to be 3 more guys that finish under par, that was his guess here. He also said the course is going to catch up to these players, and that's exactly what happened. We went from 11-ish. Oh, we got a PK with Messi early on.
Argentina, Austria, coming up on the 8th minute, and Leo Messi is putting the ball on the spot for a penalty kick. This, if he scores this, it would make him the all-time leading World Cup goal scorer, breaking the tie. And he misses. Leo Messi just missed a penalty kick against Austria. He didn't even put it on frame.
So the keeper guessed right, so he might have blocked it anyway, but Messi missed it wide.
He missed it wide right. He tried a little stutter step at the end, a little slow play, delayed release on the shot. I'm not going to lie, that was the least impressive penalty kick I've ever seen in my many minutes of watching World Cup soccer.
Yeah, that's a tough one. He immediately hands on his face like, oh, man, how'd I miss it?
That's a huge missed opportunity. Now, we're only in the now 9th minute of Argentina versus Austria, but let that be the biggest story of the soccer day so far. Leo Messi missing a penalty kick. By the way, I was 42 3/4 years old when I learned of the new rule at World Cup and international tournaments that you get a red card if you cover your mouth while you're talking to an opponent. Did you know about this, James? 877-353-0700.
I did not know this.
Did you know about this? All of you out there, all of you soccer aficionados, all you hardcores, like it's honestly kind of fun. Even when you're a sports guy and you should know these things, it's kind of fun learning a new rule about a sport that you feel like you've got at least the basics on. I did not know this was the case. I'm watching over the weekend, and it was in the Paraguay game. There's a situation where, players are getting a little bit heated at one another, getting a little bit bothered. And Paraguay versus Turkey, there's a little extracurricular conversation happening, and Enciso puts the jersey over the mouth. No, it wasn't Enciso. He had been subbed out. In any case, a Paraguay player, I'll find out who it was, puts his shirt up over his mouth, or puts his hand over his mouth, and he says something. And everyone on the Turkey team starts freaking out, right? They go to the VAR. They do the whole, like, I'm a mime making a box thing. They go to the VAR. The ref goes and looks at it and determines somehow that this individual has been, he covered his mouth and he said something. And the reason behind the rule makes perfect sense, because abusive language, especially like slurs, racial stuff, has been a big problem in international soccer. And the ref goes over, he evaluates the replay of the trash talking, and then he pulls out the red card. And Paraguay plays a good chunk of the game a man down. And I was like, my wife, who's played college soccer, big soccer, I was like, wait, did you know about that rule? She's like, I didn't know about that rule. Insane. 877-353-0700 if there's any similar rules in sports that you learned like way after you should have learned them. And this one I think is a relatively recent development, so I'm giving myself a little bit of latitude on not knowing that it was a rule. But that's a hard and fast thing in international soccer, and the broadcast team did a great job of explaining it, and there was zero controversy at all about, oh, yep, that's against the rules. You got it. It's kind of like, I was about to say it's kind of like targeting, but then I realized that's not true at all, because no one can agree on what's targeting, what's not targeting.
Yeah,
but
there's always controversy when there's a targeting call.
But it's something that they have decided to emphasize with the referees in these games, in these tournaments, and they just said, like, the broadcast team was like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. He's out. I was like, okay. Mean words. You say something mean, and you can lose your opportunity to compete for your national team in the World Cup. And that was a win, by the way, for Paraguay. So they held on. They eliminate Turkey. Team USA wins the group, and we are off to a World Cup, at least quarterfinal, baby. I'm calling it now.
Well, I don't know if you're allowed to change your prediction, OC. I've got you down for round of 16. in our very informed predictions that everyone should listen to. By the way, not feeling good about my Jordan pick.
Wait, why not, James?
They're not eliminated yet now, okay? They're still in it in that group, but not feeling great about it.
So Team USA wins the group, and a lot of conversation happening this weekend, I should say, about whether or not a significant run in the World Cup will change our relationship with soccer here in the United States. And I listened to a bunch of pundits. I listened to people who are soccer people, and they are mostly skeptics. I listened to people who are college football guys. I listened to just like the random, nighttime fill-in ESPN radio cats. Kirk Morrison filling in for the Rich Eisen show today. And there's some level of this question coming from 90% of the sports talk radio shows that you're listening to right now, that you're tuning into over the weekend, after USA wins the group. And in winning the group, they will end up with a smoother path to whatever matchups they get in the round of 32, whatever matchups they get in the round of 16 are now more favorable, right? And so as this glimmer of hope starts to appear, you've got former U.S. men's national team goalkeeper Tim Howard saying in a conversation with Landon Donovan, it's impossible for this U.S. men's national team to win the World Cup. It's literally impossible, were his words. And that throws a lot of cold water on the hope, the expectation, whatever. I think that this World Cup, regardless of whether or not the team that we hope wins it, which I don't think the U.S. men's national team is going to win the World Cup. I don't think any of us actually believe they're going to win the World Cup. I think that the small glimmer and possibility in hearing Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Thierry Henry and those individuals who have never had any reason to put respect on the name of U.S. men's national team soccer starting to reluctantly do so, I think that's what changes the relationship that the American sports fan has with soccer. And it's not going to change it overnight drastically in a sort of binary way, like, oh, we weren't a soccer nation before and now we are. But watching this World Cup, and we're a couple of weeks into it now, and the novelty for some has worn off. But while the novelty is not the main driving force in the interest anymore, like, the soccer is compelling. The continued relationship with the visiting fans is compelling. The fact that the gathered crowds at these watch parties and on the plaza at every stadium is not trying to copycat European soccer standard is compelling to me. And I'm not the only one to make this point. I'm not the first one to make this point, but a point that I think matters when we're watching this World Cup is you have to adopt and adapt, I should say, how soccer exists in the U.S. to an American mentality and ethos, right? You've got to stop the flopping. It's ridiculous. You're not going to stop it. You have to minimize it. The U.S. men's national team cannot be guilty of the, oh, you got tripped, now I'm going to roll 7 times. That's a real number, by the way. We were watching, and I was laughing, and my wife was kind of like, come on, it's soccer. Stop making fun of these. This is what soccer is. I'm like, I know, but that guy fell down, and he should have stopped. His momentum stopped him right there as soon as he hit the ground. He rolled 7 times. I counted. I'm like, that's something that American sports fans will never be able to embrace. But our team won't do it. If our team's not doing it or is doing it markedly less, I think we're okay. If we try like we did with the MLS teams, and I've been vocal against this, if we try to just copy the way we name our teams, the way that's what, the Manchester United is DC United. Like, I don't like that. I don't like that we did that with the MLS. The newer teams in the MLS are doing a little bit less of that, but I think that is something that we can do to separate American sport American soccer from the rest of the sport of soccer in a way that will make it more appealing to Americans. And I know that that's not necessarily the 100% goal of MLS. They want to embrace the European kind of mentality because it works over there. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it doesn't work in America. The relationship that we have with soccer, when I asked 2 weeks ago, is it going to change how you watch soccer? Is this going to be like the Olympics? We're watching it happen. We're watching sports fans in major American cities go out, buy a U.S. men's national team shirt, go buy a Mexico shirt, go buy an Argentina shirt, whatever, and go experience soccer in a way that is not going to make it rocket to the top of their rankings. It's not going to replace NFL football or college football. But if this team that we're rooting for, the patriotism in us demands that we root for, if they could make it to a round of 16, if they can make it to a final 8, if they can make it, dare I dream, to the final 4 of this tournament, now we have the respect of the international community, and you have something to kind of attach your pride to, and now it does change the relationship that people have with soccer in the United States. But I don't think it's going to take all of that. I think this is elevating soccer in the U.S. as we speak, regardless almost of the results of the U.S. men's national team. And if they end up winning anything significant or making, even it doesn't have to be winning the World Cup, because I don't think they're going to do that. If we upset somehow on this path, if Christian Pulisic gets healthy and scores one against, I don't know, Spain, scores one against Argentina, scores one against a team that you're not supposed to beat, I think now that glimmer of hope exists and the belief starts to exist. And the reason I feel confident in that is because 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we never would have thought hockey would have much of a chance in Salt Lake City. People didn't know to speak the language of hockey in Salt Lake City. Even those of us who are in the sports business, I was born in Minnesota, okay? Like, it was the early childhood. It was part of, like, the fabric of your life growing up there, right? And I always said, yeah, we need more sports teams here. Hockey was okay, but we didn't know it was going to look like it does. The most optimistic outlook, and I credit Smith Entertainment Group, Ryan and Ashley, I credit everyone who had the vision to know that, like, you know what, if you build it, they will come. That's what's got to happen with American soccer. And we're watching it happen in this World Cup. I really do believe that. We're watching Americans embrace the world game, embrace the beautiful game, embrace the game that is number one on the list of literally 4+ billion people worldwide and is number 6 on our favorites, right? It's not going to go to number 1, but it might go to 5 or it might go to 4, just like hockey did for you here in Salt Lake City. If I asked all of you, honestly, 5 years ago, where is hockey on your list of favorite sports? You would have said it's 4 out of the major 4. And a lot of you would have said, well, it's 5 behind MLS soccer. And now, I don't know anyone it's lower than 3. Because why? Because we have something to root for. Because you have something to cheer for. And guess what's going to happen with the Utah Jazz if they draft well tomorrow? Their place secure at number 1 for so long, and then they fell down to 2 for a lot of people. They fell down to 3 for a lot of people because they have not been good, because the patience that is required to root for a team that is 5 years deep into a tanking effort just evades most of us. If they give you something to cheer for, suddenly they climb. We're all, to some extent, fair weather fans, which is why suddenly the BYU contingent is louder and more obnoxious than they ever were, and you got to give credit where it's due. They've been BYU faithful for obvious reasons, even through some lean years. Utah football, you had to suffer through really one embarrassingly bad year, and it got pretty loud about how dissatisfied people were, right? We need this. We need something to care about, to cling to have hope for, and this World Cup is giving us that for soccer. That's really all we need as sports fans. Utah fans right now are, on paper, entering a year with a massive amount of uncertainty. Massive. Utah Jazz fans, a massive amount of uncertainty. You still don't have a Walker Kessler deal done. You don't know if Lauri Markkanen can stay healthy for a whole year. You actually have no idea how Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to truly fit with this team. We don't know for sure if Will Hardy is a good basketball coach. We think he is, but we don't know because he's never been asked to actually try to win, right? There's a huge amount of uncertainty with 2 of the 3 or 3 of the 4 of the most important sports products in your life as a Utah sports fan. And you're still optimistic and you're still rooting and you're still buying the gear and you're still listening to this stupid show because you have what? You have a small grain and glimmer of hope. Because you trust Morgan Scalley at least some. Because you think that Devin Dampier, and if not him, Bird Ficklin, has what it takes. Because you like Wayshawn Parker this much. Because Kelvin Obot is the highest-rated recruit that this program has ever seen. Because you think Jonnu Hall making the move from safety to linebacker, this is the year that he is going to break out as a big-time all-conference player. Whatever your reasoning is, it doesn't, on paper, it doesn't even really have to make a ton of sense. 2 victories in group play is all I have needed and all most of us have needed from the U.S. men's national team. The idea that Darren Peterson and or A.J. DeBonsa might actually end up being an NBA star that you get to watch during the All-Star break and that you get to buy a jersey for, that's enough that Jazz fans are jumping back on this bandwagon. The Utah Mammoth made it into the playoffs and didn't make it out of the first series, but now suddenly we are hardcore hockey fans, and we're just like, yeah, let's build some more facilities for them. Let's make it a part of our culture. I mean, I used to be really pessimistic and honestly pretty dismissive on the soccer front in the United States, and I am prone to being a prisoner to the moment for sure. But I'm looking at it now and I'm saying, if certain things break the right way, we don't have to ignore this for the next 4 years. We don't have to accept that, U.S., that's just not our thing. Soccer is just not our thing. This golden generation might actually start building into something that we can compete on a world stage. It's still a big maybe. But I don't know that a lot of people had it handicapped that this U.S. men's national team, after 2 games, would have secured the group already.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the thing that would send this soccer fandom on a rocket ship to the moon, so to speak, for people like you and me and others out there that are kind of only World Cup, I get into it, only U.S. men's national team stuff, I get into it. I think what it would send that rocket ship to the moon into the air there would be an upset like that, because what we've seen with U.S. men's national team over the years, we've seen them win their group in World Cup before. We've seen them get to the quarters, although it's been a really long time. We've seen them, and that means we've seen them win a knockout round game. I don't know that they've ever beaten a top, blue blood, so to speak, blue blood in world soccer, that they've had that kind of a monumental upset before that really signals, hey, we've not only arrived, we're actually good at this game. You cannot ignore us. So beating an Argentina, beating a Spain, beating a Brazil in this year's World Cup.
By the way, Brazil, I don't think Brazil's that great this year. Like, you could beat Brazil.
Yeah. That would still be that would still be looked at as a monumental upset in this World Cup. That's the thing about this. Like, it's fantastic that they won their first 2 games so far, and they've won their group through 2 group stage games. What has kind of gotten a little out of hand is the fact that they've played their the third or fourth worst teams maybe the second and third or the third and fourth worst teams in their group so far.
Well, okay, so Turkey is eliminated.
Right, so they're the worst in
They're
how
the worst,
it plays out. Yeah.
but they're actually probably the most talented. So
They were picked by a lot of people to win the group. Absolutely.
Right as it stands right now, who you meet in the first knockout stage is Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Seems beatable. Shout out to our friends who've been working out in Utah, by the way, training in Utah.
And again, as it stands now, still one more game to play in group. Your second round matchup would be the winner of Czechia and Australia, or Czechia and New Zealand.
They seem beatable as well. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not going to go too far down this rabbit hole because I'll say something wrong, but we're all starting to believe, and I love it. Staying on that belief front, again, with the Utah Jazz, it feels like people are ready to fire back up the old expectation machine. A lot of that is dependent on how the draft goes tomorrow. Is it predictable? Will we see some madness? Kristen Peak is going to join us talking about her final mock draft and, of course, what we think will happen tomorrow night. Sean O'Connell Show rolling on a Monday, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Eight seven seven 353 Was there a Christmas or birthday or special occasion as a kid that you kind of knew what you were getting? You knew what was coming, but you were excited about it anyway? right? You get to like 8, 9, 10 years old, and you start to figure out that Santa Claus is going to get the big thing that you ask for as long as you're within reason, right? You have some sense at that point in your life of the manufacturing means of Santa Claus, if that makes sense. And you're like, you know what? Santa Claus, I want this bike. This specific bicycle, Santa Claus, is the thing that I am really excited about. And you feel really confident that Santa Claus is going to come through on that bike. But it does not take away from the anticipation, the excitement, the joy of Christmas. That's where I think I'm at with this Utah Jazz draft that's coming up tomorrow night. NBA draft. It's not just the Jazz drafting, of course. Our draft show will be 6 to whenever the first round ends down at the engine room. Swing by, say hello, food and drink specials, some things to give away. Gordy Chiesa, Richard Smitty Smith, Spence Checketts, myself at the engine room talking about what I think will be an announcement that the Utah Jazz are drafting. Well, it's one of two things. So you're either getting the bicycle that you wanted or you're getting the Sega that you wanted. And if you were smart as a kid, you always gave Santa the good backup option, right? Or you were like, look, here's the big thing I want from Santa Claus, and here's the big thing I want from Mom and Dad. I want a bicycle from Santa Claus, and if he can't pull that off, then maybe Mom and Dad, you can get, and it was always a group present in our house, you can get me, an older brother and younger sister, you can get us a Sega Genesis, a Super Sega. We did regular Nintendo, then we did Sega, then we did PlayStation, then we did PlayStation 2, and that was it. That's after PlayStation 2, I kind of aged out of the video game world. I think that's what we're getting with the Utah Jazz tomorrow, where we kind of know it's either going to be AJ or more likely it's going to be Darren Peterson. I don't know who is the bicycle in this case and who is the video game system, but it feels like it's one of those two as the most likely outcome. And it's a wonderful Christmas morning either way. We've talked ad nauseum with a lot of different pundits, a lot of different insiders about, the fit thing, about the question about as to whether or not, somebody wants to be here. I have helped, I think, drive the narrative that it makes sense to me that the Utah Jazz would care, should care, will care about whether or not a guy really is enamored with living in, playing in, working in Salt Lake City, maybe staying here in off seasons if they care about that. And I've also, perhaps falsely, felt sure that A.J. DeBonsa has given enough information that he is likely to want to be here. But there's also the likelihood, just maybe not 50-50, but there is some likelihood that he's experienced Utah these last few years, and now he's like ready for something new. Report this weekend, and you have to dig, but the Dallas Hoops Journal, which is, it's not the New York Times, it's not Shams or somebody like that, but the Dallas Hoops Journal is not just some tabloid that doesn't have any real journalistic integrity. The Dallas Hoops Journal has reported that Darren Peterson, while he didn't come out and work out for the Utah Jazz, he has met with the Utah Jazz. He at least had conversations with Jazz brass. Now, I don't know what the content of that meeting would be. I don't know if there are people who, he sat down with, who listened to him say, well, turns out I just don't want to be here. Leo Messi just scored for Argentina after missing the PK in about the 8th minute, in the 38th minute, on a beautiful crossing pass. Left foot into the back of the net. Argentina up 1-0 on Austria. I don't know what the content of whatever meeting with Darren Peterson was when the Utah Jazz executives were able to sit down face-to-face with him, as the Dallas Hoops Journal is reporting. Talking to Gordy, talking to Spence, talking to Smitty, talking to people that are much more connected even than those guys. Well, not more connected than Gordy and Smitty, but more connected than Spence and I are. And knowing what we saw last year with Ace Bailey, it doesn't matter to some extent what Darren Peterson had to say. If he is the most talented, if he is the best option, if he is the best available, then it's Darren Peterson to the Utah Jazz. And as far as we can tell, it worked out okay with Ace Bailey, so that's how it will work out with Darren Peterson. Until we have reason to disbelieve that, I will believe that that's how it will work out with Darren Peterson. There's also a lot of rumor out there. There's a lot of conversation that Washington, who holds the number 1 pick, that they've fallen in love with Darren Peterson. Well, you can fall in love with Darren Peterson and still acknowledge that A.J. Debonsa is something that you love even more, and that A.J. Debonsa might be a better fit for your franchise. The Jazz are in a really unique situation where it feels altogether predictable that you're going to end up with one of those two people, and in either case, you're probably happy. In either case, you're pleased with the outcome. Eight 877-353-0700. Just tell me where you're sitting a day ahead. I think most of us think it's Darren Peterson, right? And then you get into the conversations about how will Darren Peterson coexist with Keontae George. And then the conversation extends to, will Darren Peterson have to exist long-term with Keontae George? Or will he end up replacing Keontae George? And Keontae George, who wants an extension, isn't going to get one anytime soon, it doesn't seem. Probably won't, at least I think we're going to go into a Walker Kessler situation with Keontae again this year, where he's going to say the right things and he's likely going to do the right things, but then we're going to watch them play together, maybe watch them play one coming off the bench, one starting. We still have to figure it out. It goes back to what I was saying in the first segment. We've got this optimism and this excitement about not only the draft, but the results of the draft and what it does for this roster. There's still a lot of things up in the air. There's still a lot of unanswered questions about this Utah Jazz team. But because of the positive trending, the direction that the franchise is headed, and the fact that finally, at long last, something good happened for you in a draft lottery, now we're cool. Now we're feeling good. Now we're hosting a watch party for the draft at the Engine Room. Now we're all sitting down and being like, all right, this is going to be fun. We didn't get the bicycle that we wanted, but we got the video game system instead, and we're going to turn this into a great Christmas. The pressure is not on the Utah Jazz. The pressure to make the right decision is on the Washington Wizards. They have taken away any kind of significant angst, I think, in that Utah Jazz front office, because for them it's just like, all right, we'll take whoever the best player available is. You cannot control the Washington Wizards. There's no credible outlet reporting that the Jazz are going to intend to trade up to get A.J. Debonsa or Darren Peterson or whoever they think will be the number 1 pick. They're going to stay at number 2, and the pressure is on Washington to make the right pick for Washington. And we'll take what's left. We'll take what's next. It's where my holiday analogy runs out, my Christmas analogy runs out, because maybe some other people experience this. I never walked down to see the presents under the Christmas tree, and it was like, all right, Big Brother gets to choose first, and then you get the second best thing. It was not that way. Maybe it was that way in your house. That would be tough.
Christmas present draft?
Christmas present draft, where Santa Claus just is like, all right, we got an electric scooter. Didn't exist when I was a kid, so bad example. All right, you got an electric scooter. You got PlayStation 27 or whatever they have coming out now. You got a puppy. So you 3 kids. Middle child won the lottery. Middle child, you go first. Pick the one you want.
Ping pong balls favored the middle child.
Sorry,
for the first time ever.
Yeah. As a middle child, I can tell you.
Middle child were the Utah Jazz of that draft lottery.
As a middle child, I can tell you the ping pong balls never went your way. But, I mean, it's funny because I'm as excited, I think, as is appropriate for this draft. But it's weird because I'm like, well, yeah, but we're getting the bike.
Getting a really good player no matter what. Yeah. I am least in favor, I told you before, I'm least in favor of trading up for number 1, but if you're staying at number 2, which I'm glad of, that seems to be the reports that Jazz are going to do, I'm least in favor of drafting Cam Boozer in that scenario. But you're getting a good player no matter what. Even if you draft Cam Boozer, I wouldn't feel great about it if they did that. That being said.
The Engine Room, 1388 South, 300 West. That's where we're hosting our watch party. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM team. Gordy Chiesa, Richard Smitty Smith. That's who's important. Guys with a combined 100 years in NBA basketball. Yeah. Also, host of The Drive, Spence Checketts. He knows a thing or two about hoop. I, in addition, will be there offering moral support.
And gonna be 3+ hours. Gonna be like you teased. There'll be some giveaways. Learn more about those as we get closer to it. But plenty of reason to go down and watch the draft with the guys at the Engine Room tomorrow.
Bring in your vouchers, your James Peterson bonus point vouchers.
Oh yeah, they'll be worth something down there.
You could trade those in for cocktail napkins. Or extra straws.
Are those called cocktail straws? The red tiny straws?
Yeah.
You can you can probably get a whole bundle of those per James Peterson bonus point.
Maybe. We don't know, actually.
Maybe a coaster.
All right. On 3, which of course is now the home of Ute Zone, On 3 has put out their over-under win totals for the upcoming Big 12 football season. We're going to see a lot of these. We're going to see some variation on what these sports books and some of these probability sites have when it comes to this upcoming. There's one number that, given recent headlines, is completely outrageous. And I'll tell you what that is next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792 FM. Craig Bowlerjack is going to join us in about 10 minutes ahead of the NBA draft tomorrow night. We've got a special draft preview show for you at the Engine Room, 1388 South, 300 West. Gordy Chiesa, Richard Smitty Smith, Spence Checketts, and myself getting you ready. Listen to the basketball wisdom of those individuals. Listen to the home improvement wisdom of your boy right now. 801-850-9100 is the number you need for Advanced Window Products. 801-850-9100. Okay? The process of getting something like replacement windows, even window coverings, can be so tedious and painful and obnoxious and annoying. You've got door-to-door salesmen coming out telling you, hey, you need new windows if you don't need new windows. You've got companies, when you do need new windows, saying, all right, this is how much it's going to cost. You have to find a contractor to install the windows. We'll sell you the window itself, or vice versa. You go to the contractor, oh, yeah, I'll put your windows in, but you got to choose what kind of windows. And there's just no one-stop feeling about any of that. That's where Advanced Windows comes in. Advanced Window Products, advancedwindows.com. A lifetime warranty, so you can already check that box. You know that when you make the purchase, it's covered for the life of your home, the life of the window. And it's manufactured right here. And the installation is done by a crew from Salt Lake City, in Salt Lake City. And the warranty is covered by a crew in Salt Lake City, from Salt Lake City. So if there is an unlikely problem, you pick up the phone, you call Advanced Window Products again, you say, hey, you know, the neighbor kid ended up throwing a rock, cracked my window. What, am I under warranty? And they're going to say, yes, we'll come and we'll get that fixed. Make the call today at 801-850-9100 because you deserve to have a company that's going to take care of you not only the day you're a customer, not only the day that they're getting your cash, but for the entirety of the time you own their product. It's really rare to find these days, and yet Advanced Window Products is covering everyone for the life of their home after they buy Advanced Windows. All right, win totals are out, and the Big 12 win totals are downright silly on some fronts. Well, really one front. At the very top of the table, according to BetMGM, Texas Tech football set at 11.5 regular season wins for their over-under. Do you believe Texas Tech is going undefeated or not is the question that BetMGM is asking you. Now, given recent developments, one might expect, oh, this is an outdated list. Oh, this was the win total before Brendan Sorsby was ruled ineligible and decided he's going into the supplemental draft and he gave up his fight. Nope, this is the current win total. This is now. Abilene Christian, week 1. That's a win. Oregon State, week 2, that's a win. Houston, week 3, we think that's a win. Sam Houston, week 4, that's a win. Colorado, week 5, that's a win. Starts to get a little bit tougher in week 6. Arizona State, October 17th. Texas Tech on the road at Cincinnati on the 24th. Arizona, I actually think that's a much tougher game than people are going to give it credit for. That would be one that I might tab as a potential loss for Texas Tech. West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and TCU. So you look at the schedule, and then you're like, oh, wait, maybe that is the decision that you need to make here. Is Texas Tech going to go undefeated against that schedule? There is no BYU on it. There is no Utah on it. Arizona State and Arizona, I think, are both sneaky good teams. I think they're teams that can cause you some serious problems. I think you have to pencil in a loss based on just the uncertainty of this offseason, based on the fact that you're not going to get Will Hammond back until probably week 4, based on the fact that these are still college football athletes, and while you did bring in some really important transfers and you shored up whatever weaknesses you thought, to be able to twice in a row integrate a bunch of new players into a system and make them cohesive as a team, means that you're counting on having the same personalities, the same type of leadership. I mean, last year you had David Bailey and Jacob Rodriguez. These are remarkable individuals, not just football players. And you had success largely because of that. The Sorsby thing, I do believe there's going to be a cost to it. I don't know exactly what that cost is going to be, but I think it's at least one win. Right now, BetMGM says the over-under is 11.5, undefeated or not, in Big 12 play and in regular season play for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. That, to me, is still crazy.
Yeah, seems like you're pretty safe in betting under there. But, I mean, then you look at the schedule and you go, Texas Tech probably will be favored in all of these games. I would add Houston as a team that's could be a potential loss there. I would agree with you, probably behind ASU and Arizona, but Houston is supposed to be pretty good this year too. They're going to lose to one of those teams, right? They might even lose to two of those teams.
I just don't understand. Like, Ohio State's over-under is 9.5.
Yeah, but that's the Big Ten is way better than the Big 12. OC,
I mean,
obviously.
the Big Ten is better than the Big 12.
Who's the big non-conference for Ohio State this year? I haven't looked at the schedule yet.
I don't know.
Look it up.
Now, Notre Dame is another team that's in this same category from a betting standpoint. 11.5 wins is the over-under for Notre Dame.
They play Texas again. Ohio State does.
So the question
that adds to
the question people are asking is, hey, does Notre Dame go undefeated? Does Texas Tech go undefeated? I mean, what? We'll get back into this maybe later on in the show, but that jumped out at me as soon as I saw this. We'll take a break here. Craig Boulder-Jack joins us next, television voice of the Utah Jazz, to talk about what else. Tomorrow night's draft. Does he have any kind of insider information? Darren Peterson or A.J. DeBonsa? It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome to hour number 2 on the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Craig Bolerjack, iconic voice of the Utah Jazz, NBA insider for these purposes today. Bowler, welcome back to the show. How are you, sir?
OC, I'm good. How you been?
I'm doing all right. What's the level of anticipation like in the Bolerjack household for tomorrow night's draft?
I say let's roll, man. I can't wait. We'll be at Southtown tomorrow night. Big party, 5 o'clock. Dippin' Dots. OC, I know that's one of your favorites. So
I do love me some Dippin' Dots.
So I can't wait. It was like the draft, 2 years ago when Ace was taken, and the anticipation during that 17-win season was, number one. Didn't happen. That belonged to Dallas, and we got Ace, and now, you got the 2 pick. And, there's really no clear path of what, the Wizards, the Jazz will do. And, it's that first domino that drops that opens things up. So really Washington holds the cards. I did hear per reports that Peterson did talk to the Jazz, and that was – for draft, tomorrow night's draft. So that's good. I mean, you want to make sure that door's open if that's what happens. If, AJ goes 1, Peterson, Boozer. I mean, there's some talented young players, OC, that these top 4, maybe you can jump into the top 5, but the top 4 with Caleb Wilson, the North Carolina kid, there's a lot of talent out there. The Jazz are going to land a very, very good player no matter what.
Well, you already hit on something I think is important for me in this draft, that you do have to kind of just wait and see what Washington does. There was early conversation when right after the lottery, like I was speculating, a lot of people were, all right, is there anything worth it? Could you jump to number 1? Is that something this team will try to do? And it seems like that, that was just speculation. That was nothing that the team, whether they actually ever even entertained that possibility in the front office, it doesn't seem like they did, right? So they'll draft at number 2. And to me, that puts all the pressure on Washington, because now Washington's got to make the right decision for themselves, but they're going to kind of set the rest of this draft order by picking either AJ or Darren, we think. I guess they could surprise us. And then if you're the Utah Jazz, it feels like you're just kind of like, okay, cool. Well, they decided that they're taking this guy. That means we are left with the 1B option, and I think you're happy with both. Is there one they'll be significantly happier with, though, in your mind?
That's only what Danny and Austin know. I tell you, if you break down the roster, they put a lot of effort into the development of many, many players, and one being Keontae George. Every GM, I think we talked before, OC, that I'm sure you've talked to general managers in any sport. I mean, they never show their cards, and that's part of the game they have to play. But, I've always been told that, look, we'll take the best available player. And I think that's kind of what holds true in any league. Then you have to deal with that player and how he is going to fit. And does that mean you have a draft asset or a trade asset if you want to move a player because you have to, push your number 2 pick into the lineup in some way. So I tell you, it's just a game of chance at times. But I know everyone's done their homework, and up on a board somewhere they have Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and maybe a Plan D. But depends on that first pick what Washington truly is going to do. I'm not sure. Yesterday's report indicated that, Trae Young had declined his $48 million player option, but yet the Wizards, quote, are still his number 1 pick. So, they've already got a young backcourt. And what I mean by young is Trey Johnson, who was their number 6 pick last year. So I don't know how that pans out with another guard, unless they have ideas of moving someone. But, it's also
to seem like maybe clear the air a little bit, which I really loved. But, there's been a lot of narrative and a lot of conversation.
That's one thing players have to. That's one thing players have to do. Look, they're represented by agents, OC, and those agents speak for them in many ways, but there's nothing better than to speak for them in many ways, but there's nothing better than to clarify. And he has to have, surgery and, men's and been working hard on trying to get back into, NBA shape. But, if the Jazz do sign him, you look at the front line available for Will Hardy, it's ridiculous. I mean, there's so many problems that front three with Triple J, Market, and Walker give the opponents' defenses every night, and then you have to make tough choices. And you've got a guard line, with Key and most likely Ace and backups. Unless of course, the Jazz, this roster still is in flux, in motion. I'm sure it all depends on what happens tomorrow night and what other plans that the Jazz front office has, but. They put a lot of time and effort in development, OC. You know that. And believe me, I know it. The last 2 years was 17 and 22 wins. But, the bottom line is that you've seen improvement. And that's why I think Delta Center, most nights were filled with fans because they went along for the ride to watch the progression, to watch the maturation of all these young guys. Sensabaugh included. Filipowski's part of that, Isaiah Collier, and the list goes on and on. So you just don't know what the total plan will be. But I tell you that first pick starts the whole process, and whomever the Jazz do get at number 2 could play a big factor on what they do from that point on. And I just say, man, I'm anxious, and I really want to see this team grow. And be a productive, team in the West and be a playoff team and, challenge. There's a lot of talent there, as you know, man. OKC and San Antonio is not going anywhere anytime soon, and the Jazz want to be a part of that.
When's the last time you had a real conversation with Will Hardy? Because we haven't had that opportunity anytime recently, and I would just love to pick his brain and know how he's feeling about this sort of. I mean, it's such a crucial juncture of his own head coaching career, where now he's been the perfect company man, as you know, Bowler. But now they're going to take the reins off, right? And it's like, okay, now go win, and you got some horses to do it. So when's the last time you talked to him?
Talked to him on a flight back from Los Angeles, final game of the season. And, he was candid. I think he echoes those same sentiments that he will be able to coach. He is unleashed. He will have multiple, as he told me, just say, Bowler, look at what we have a chance to do. And that is multiple different lineups and scenarios. Play big, play small, play fast, play slow. And that's a dream of any coach in the NBA. He started. It's hard to believe he's in his 5th season, and time does pass fast. And he wants to win. He wants to be a part of what he experienced in San Antonio. He has a little bit of pop in him, but he also is in himself. And people have to realize Will Hardy, I think, is a talented young coach. And we're going to see an opportunity for him to go out and coach. He's developed, and that's what they asked him to do. But now that process, it's never totally complete, right? But yet for the Jazz, the next step is right in front of him. And how could he not be excited to be able to coach this group of young players and the starting 5, potentially the starting 5, could be one of the most dynamic in the NBA.
Greg Bowler, Jack, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking the Utah Jazz, their draft pick number 2 tomorrow night. We will have our own draft watch party at the Engine Room, 1388 South, 300 West, with Gordy Chiesa and Smitty and company. You already alluded to this, and I think it's one of the most important things to talk about when it comes to this Utah Jazz team as we move forward. You can be drastically improved in this Western Conference over what we've seen in these tanking years, and you could still come up short because of the aforementioned teams, because of OKC, because of obviously the San Antonio Spurs, who were the runners-up in this year's NBA championship, because of teams like Denver still hanging on, because of The Lakers, they still got Luka. We'll see what happens with LeBron. So with all of that in mind, what is a realistic, reasonable, hopeful expectation for this kind of year one of trying to win? I've said playoffs or at least play-in tournament. Can we ask much more?
No, I think that's the process. I think we just saw, San Antonio prove that they're very talented, and Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle and Wembanyama, wow. But you know what? It's a process. So see, any team, and you've been a part of many, that where you develop and you have to say, oh, that's how you do it, or man, that one hurt because we didn't do A, B, and C. We have the talent, but we haven't been there. And I think, Oklahoma City kind of, it's hard to repeat, man. I mean, that's what makes the Jordan era just so impossible to not talk about, right? Because to get there's one thing, to win it is another. The Lakers, with the three-peat, I mean, those are great teams. And you know what the separator is? It's all great talent, but it's the mental game. And I think it's where San Antonio is going to have to be and understand and learn that they have to be mentally tougher to close games out. I mean, they came out of the gate and, they did their thing. They took massive leads but couldn't hold it against the Knicks. And that's a veterans team who didn't panic. And so a lot to be said, OC, about talent. There's a lot of it in this league, by the way, but the great teams find a way, and that is through the mental part of it. And a guy named Brunson, who's had a hell of a journey throughout the NBA, and he found his niche, and he led that Knicks team to the world title, or NBA title, however you want to put it. But I think the Jazz will have to take those steps. That's the fun part about it too. You want to win now, everybody does, but it's rare that you can just put a bunch of young players with a scattered veteran leadership that can say, okay, man, we're going to win this thing. Look, that would be incredible, an oddity. Could it be done? Yeah, in any sport, but I think still a process, and there's going to be ups, downs, and sideways. But I think the Jazz are on firm ground to make some big moves, and I cannot disagree with a play-in opportunity for the Jazz, or maybe even better, if their health stays on their side. That's a key for any team. But I like what the Jazz are doing and where they're going.
Speaking of the NBA championship and the Knicks, Jalen Brunson is getting his flowers, his well-deserved flowers. First championship for the Knicks in 53 years. He was obviously the Finals MVP. He was the biggest driving factor in them achieving that success. And it was much publicized a couple years ago when he made the decision. It's being talked about again, I think for very good reason. He left money on the table. He did not take the max money, which is something that I think that agents don't like to see. I think that there's a lot of probably even other players in the NBA who are just like, whoa, don't let these owners off the hook. You take your max money when you can get your max money. But over the life of his contract, he left over $100 million for the Knicks to spend on supporting cast. And I don't think it's going to become a norm in the NBA, but is there something that the Utah Jazz or other teams can glean from the success that the New York Knicks were able to parlay that into?
Yeah, no, OC, look, that's special. $100 million, think about it. But then he knows that the window there may not be as wide as maybe what the Jazz hope their window will be after this number 2 pick, where it's been well stated that 7 to 10 years is I tell you what, Oklahoma City may have that window. San Antonio, Golden State had it, but maybe New York, no, because it's been a lot of veterans who have come and gone during those 50-plus years that just couldn't get it done, young and old, massive trades, move this, move that, because they want the win now mentality in New York, especially a lot of pressure on New York, always has been, always will be. And you know what, to say, look, bring me the guys that can help me, says a lot about the personality. Some would say foolish, but no, but look now, he is an NBA champion. And so is the rest of New York. And look what he brought. help bring to the city of New York and beyond. I don't know if you can put a price tag on it, OC. I mean, that's a dream of every player, whether you're a football guy, baseball guy, NBA guy, hockey guy, and beyond. I mean, it's a title because it basically cements your legacy of who you are. And you can stand up and wear the ring and say, that's what I played my whole career for. And you know what? If you sacrificed $100 million, I guarantee you on endorsements and just winning the title, OC, how much you can't put a price tag on that, by the way. And I kind of feel like I like the old school approach. You know what? I'll take less, but make sure we spend the money wisely and bring the guys to surround me. And look what happened. It worked. Does it work every time? No, but it sure did this time. And, New York's going to be partying all summer and all fall and beyond, by the way. So, I respect the guy a lot. A lot of times players will say, let's reconstruct my contract to take, I'll get paid later, but let's win now. And that's happening a little bit more. I know that Mahomes in Kansas City's kind of reworked it. Brady tried to rework it a couple of times to get Gronkowski back another year or two. But it does happen, but it doesn't get a lot of play. This one did because they won a title.
Absolutely. And what was maybe the most remarkable thing about this whole storyline is that the New York Knicks, of all teams, especially here in Salt Lake City, we're usually kind of anti-big market team, right?
Right.
They were likable. They were fun to watch. They were a team that it was like easy to root for. The New York stinking Knicks, who should be the evil empire, especially owned by Jimmy Dolan, it was like, man, it was hard to root against that group, even though Victor Wembanyama and company are equally easy to root for. It was like, man, this Knicks team, they were a team of destiny. It was special. That was one of the craziest things for me is how the whole NBA embraced that it was kind of time for the Knicks to win it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year it was the smaller town market, love affair with OKC and SGA. MVP won it again this year, but San Antonio steps in their way and says, hey guys, we're here now. And you know what? The NBA has to love the storylines, right, OC, of what happened, because if I'm not mistaken, I never thought this would happen, but it did in the sense of viewership. First time since the Jazz Bulls 98 series that this type of eyeballs on a championship series. It was mesmerizing. You couldn't turn off the TV. You could walk out of the room thinking the Knicks weren't going to pull it off or that San Antonio was actually going to run away with the title. But you walk back in the room, and all of a sudden, a couple of three-point shots, a turnover, miscue, boom. And what's 29 points has been trimmed to 12. And as you know, the NBA is all about runs. It's all about fandom. It's all about the home court. And, man, the way some of these games turned out were just epic, in my opinion. And, the Knicks just had a way. And you're right. Sometimes you just thought that this was supposed to be and that New York was going to finally taste a championship in, 2 generations, basically? I mean, you put it together. Think about it. The Jazz weren't even a team when they first played for a title. This is year 50, going on year 52 for the Jazz. And just think about the years that, New York had not had a title, and the Jazz are kind of like in a position like they like to be in a situation where they could get back into a championship run as they did in 97, 98. That's a long time ago. It doesn't seem it, OC, but think about Carl and John and Hotz and Jerry Sloan and Phil Hornacek, man, Big Dog, Antoine Carr. Those are names that still resonate. But you know what? This group of young players would like to be the next group that Jazz fans remember as well, who got them into an NBA title. Not only got there, but can they win it?
Well,
because that'd be a hell of a parade down Main Street. I'll tell you that.
All respect to Jalen Brunson. I think one thing for me, if I'm looking at these recent finals through a Jazz lens, is I'm encouraged by the fact that Brunson elevated himself with this win to be a league superstar, but he's the most unlikely of all league superstars to win a championship recently. In the NBA in the last decade, 2 decades, you've needed like a top 5 player to win a championship. And the Jazz, we like their roster. They don't have that. I think maybe this New York team, similar to what we saw from the Detroit Pistons a couple of decades ago, is like, okay, you can actually win a championship with depth, with just kind of a quality, rounded out roster. And I think that's what we need for this Utah Jazz, unless whoever this number 2 pick is ends up being a perennial all-star. Like,
Yeah, good
that,
point.
You this is not a superstar-driven team, I guess, but you can win even without that.
Yeah, I think it goes back to old school kind of way of doing things. It's called team. And if you buy into it, and I think the Knicks did, I mean, Cat, he was bought in. Brunson bought in. You had Jordan Clarkson, who played, not, in his mind, he'd like to play more, right? But I feel good for JC because of the career he's had, but he's a champion now. And he did play minutes, during the regular season, and he jumped in, hit a few buckets, hit a 3 here, had a steal. And, he liked to play more minutes, but pretty much Mike Brown knew what his rotation had to be and would be. You make a great point. We were so enamored, OC, a few years ago where every team had to put on display the big 3, right? Had to be the big 3.
Yeah.
And, I mean, general managers pulled their hair out trying to figure out who they could, put in a position next to their one superstar who then would bring in a second, maybe recruit him himself, and then you have to add a third, a complementary player. And then you had no money left. By that time, you're just trying to piece the rest of the roster together by journeyman, young players on rookie contract deals, hoping that they had enough that could support these guys. Now I think the league is in a turn where they're just trying to find depth, and two-way players who can play defense. And look at the last 3 champions are Boston, Oklahoma City, and I tell you, a very tenacious New York Knicks team that was able to get it done. If you showed me Brunson as a 6-footer, been able to be an elite player in this league, Big T always tells, look, if you're a 6-footer, you have to have something incredibly special to take your team to a title. And I watched Brunson. It was nonstop fury. His ability to feel pressure left or right and spin and get into the paint, and his teardrop, his push shot, the finish, and then his uncanny ability to take on bigs and finish. And then to get back and play defense the best he could. This is a great story. New York's story will be written and remembered, but because it was a bunch of guys who got together and decided with a coach, Thibodeau out last year, and Mike Brown comes in. And OC, it's just like, wow, was this written? Was this supposed to be? And I guess it was, because it happened. And it only is going to motivate, I think, San Antonio even more so in this offseason. They'll take a breath. They probably are already trying to figure to get back into the gym. But I think they had to take a breath just because of the shock value. But this Spurs team learned a lot, by the way. Young. They know it hurts. They don't want to feel it again.
All right, last thing before I let you go, Bowler. I always appreciate your time. The Jazz here, up next, the Utah Jazz will be picking, and I think they're just going to take whoever the Washington Wizards don't. So I guess it's more of a question about who do you think Washington's going to take at 1 when we get to that draft tomorrow. Boy,
I tell you, OC, I wish I knew, man. It's hard. It's hard to say. You got AJ. Led the nation in scoring. We haven't talked Boozer, right? I think he's shown much better in camp in his workouts. He's faster than I think I knew he was, because Duke played a little bit more slower pace of play. Peterson still is the one that just kind of makes me just don't know. I'm in a wonderment of him. And I'm sure with the Jazz, the interview process for all 3 of these players had to loom large on this decision. Wouldn't you agree? I think that when you invest this type of money, which I believe is $10+ million on the number 1 pick, that you got to get it right. And the Jazz know they have to get it right at number 2 because it's a franchise changing decision, right? And all 3 of these players bring something special. And I cannot figure out, and I've looked through, and look, I know that we talked about Trae Young, right? And, what they're going to do in their backcourt and Trey Johnson. I would probably think the number 1 pick could be AJ, but I'm also not concerned, but I'm intrigued by would they try to trade that pick to actually enhance their potential of even a quicker rebuild. I don't know. So for me, I'm going to sit back and just watch this whole thing unfold. I will tell you this, Caleb Wilson's damn good, and Boozer's got a lot of play. Peterson, I don't know much about his personality, even though we got a taste of it. But the 3 games that I saw him play in the videos that I've been watching, man, there's some talent there. And A.J. DeBonta, we saw plenty of what he can do playing in Provo. And plus he's got a couple of years in the Valley playing at Utah Prep and then on down to BYU. So whoever the Jazz is, and you know what? See, I know I'm rambling, but the Jazz may not have the ability to. They're not going to be able to dictate who they want. It's just going to fall to them, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why you have Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, or Plan D, and then you have to make decisions based on that pick. And I can't wait for it to happen, man. The clock is ticking, and Jazz Nation, we're going to find out. And we're going to find out soon. And then we'll have to talk about, wow, what's he bring, how the rotations will be, and the speculation of do the Jazz make, moves and decisions. All that's going to start to play out. Free agency coming around the corner. And, man, I tell you, it's a great time of year. And then we got Summer League. And what the beauty, too, is to have the Jazz have their number 2 pick in the house, and Memphis rolls into town, right, with their number 3 pick. And so it's going to be fun basketball up at the Huntsman Center in about, let me do my math, 4th of July, 2 weeks? A little less? I mean, let's play.
It's crazy.
I can't wait.
It's crazy. It never stops, Bowler. You'll be on top of it. We'll do our best to stay on top of it also. Always appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you.
All right, OC. Take care. Good talk to you.
Greg Bowler-Jack, television voice of the Utah Jazz. Great stuff from Bowler, as always. And, yes, it's a big investment in this number 2 pick, but like I said, the pressure is on Washington. You take whoever you think is best fit for you, and then the Utah Jazz will get the next best thing. And that next best thing, by the way, will make a $10 million year 1 salary, just under $11 million in year 2, 11.3 in year 3 as the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. Daily Dump is coming next. One of the greatest athletes of all time coming back to big-time competition. Will it be a successful comeback? We'll discuss it next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. The truck with the duck, handling your drain cleaning needs, your plumbing needs, your vent cleaning, anything with that air conditioner causing some trouble. Plumbing, heating, and cooling. Actually, the truck with the duck, Rob from Valley Plumbing, he's going to be coming in this week. He might have another announcement or two about some new services they might be offering. Looking forward to that on Wednesday. Look for the truck with the duck for anything your home needs. James, have you selected a – this is a silly question. You've already jumped on the Jordan bandwagon for the World Cup.
Can't go against Jordan.
I was about to ask you if you've decided to to hop on the bandwagon of any severe underdog nation. Cape Verde is the one for me. Partially because I selected them to win their group, which they haven't yet. But
so are they an underdog, really? If you saw this coming, OC.
Cape Verde has like two people that were actually born in Cape Verde as players for the nation.
Oh.
A couple years ago, they went and they found as many high-level soccer players as they could that had parents that had Cape Verdean roots or whatever, and they offered them chances. So you got guys from Ireland, guys from Spain, guys from wherever. But they still have a decent amount of Cape Verde. Curacao only has one player on their team who was actually born in Curacao. Same reason. It's a tiny little – it's like 50,000 people. They just don't have enough. But Curacao representing well. Cape Verde, another draw. They drew with Spain. And then in that scoreless draw, their goalkeeper ended up being like the story of the World Cup tournament so far. Vezino, the 40-year-old goalkeeper, he went from like 50,000 Instagram followers to like 19 million or some absurd number. And fame is not for everybody, I'll tell you, James. He actually really stunk in their game yesterday. He had some struggles, man. Like balls that were already in his control or should have already been his control on like a friendly bounce, just flailing and missing them. And were it not for an offside, then he would have given up what would have been the game-winning goal in exactly one of those scenarios. I mean, he was diving and just missing things like in the right position, but his hands would not find the ball. It was not great, but still, Cape Verde, another 2-2 draw, and their hopes are alive in this World Cup tournament.
At 2 points through 2 games, which was that their first ever World Cup game against Spain?
It was their first ever World Cup point. I don't know if it was their first ever World Cup game.
First point, that's what it was. I knew it was a first for them, and obviously not a win because they drew in that game. Yet to get their first World Cup win, but now they go from they went from being a nation no World Cup points to now back-to-back games getting a point, and even a game where you said it, goalkeeper struggles a lot more than he did in the first game where he was lights out, a clean sheet there against probably the best team in the tournament. Gives up 2 goals, and yet they still come away with the draw. Like, this is an incredible story.
It's like ordained for Cape Verde right now because he just goes on this incredible run to popularity, and then he comes out in the next game, and he stunk it up yesterday, man. Now, he made a couple of saves, so I shouldn't be too hard on him, but there were moments where I was like, oh, was he like out partying last night? Is he hungover or something? It was just like he looked like a 40-year-old guy who doesn't even play soccer on some of these exchanges.
It looked like you would have in goal. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, probably, yeah. They wear those big old Mickey Mouse gloves, and it's supposed to make it so like you've got more traction, more surface area, all that kind of stuff. And he was just somehow like he'd make the right read, he would dive the right direction, and then just miss. You'd be like, what happened? And thankfully, his backline guys would just clear it out of there or whatever. There was one that was an offside call that Uruguay just 2 steps too fast into the box, or else they would have been able to go up 3-2 in that one. But I'm glad for Cape Verde.
Are you saying? Hold on, you're saying he's the Josh Hart of Cape Verde right now?
I don't know if it's an exact equivalent.
Thank you so much for having my back, teammates, and for being offside, or else this would have been really bad.
Yes, basically.
The way Josh Hart was like, "Thank you, OG Anunoby, for tipping that in."
Yeah, he's like,
I almost screwed that game up.
He said he would have lived with regrets for years, which is 100% accurate. So anyway, Cabo Verde. Let's jump on the bandwagon, people.
Yeah,
mostly because I picked them to win the group.
If I hadn't have already rolled with Jordan, they would be my team.
Serena Williams, we already got the announcement that she intends to play doubles at Wimbledon alongside her sister Venus. Serena also throwing her name back in. She is going to be a wild card entrant to singles play at Wimbledon at 44 years of age.
You're going to get to see it up close probably.
I'm so hopeful that I'm a humongous Serena Williams fan. And the fact that at 44 that she came back at the Queen's Classic.
Yeah, last week, 2 weeks ago.
She was ripping 120-mile-an-hour serves in that tournament.
I mean, the talent doesn't go away. The ability doesn't necessarily go away when you have a long layoff. What the question becomes, do you have enough for that to be consistent over a long period of time? And we'll see as a singles player in Wimbledon, first time in 4 years.
Now, here's what I'm curious about. With Serena, for the bulk of her career, in her prime, she was very obviously a level of athleticism, speed, physicality. She was like a standard deviation above everyone else. At 44, when, you've fallen off a little bit, you are just not as fast, you are not as strong, it just happens, right? Is she now on a level of equal athleticism to some of these people? 4 years away, has her technique fallen off enough that now she's like more equal to the competition, or has that much time away dropped her down slightly below the act? I mean, that would be the expectation, that you're not able to just jump back in after that much time away. We don't really do this in a lot of other sports. I guess in golf you can kind of get away with it, right? And it wasn't like for her, she was just kind of done playing tennis. There were some injuries, but it wasn't like she had some big catastrophic surgically repaired issue that she had to spend a lot of time rehabbing. It's like she had another kid. She kind of moved on to life as an endorser, life as a business person, life as a mom, and there's nothing wrong with that. The most successful women's tennis player ever. Now she's back. I really hope she goes on a run here. I hope I get to see. They're going to put her at center court.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. She's going to have matches at center court, the All England Club at Wimbledon. She's going to be facing a high seed because she will come in unranked because she hasn't played in 4 years. So it's going to be every match that she has will probably be a compelling match, not just because this is the return of Serena Williams, but because she's probably going to play some of the top players in the world right off the bat, because she's going to be a lower seed, an unranked player, a very low seeded player, because she hasn't played in 4 years. So it's going to be exciting. Can I rain on the parade just a little bit? I'm sorry.
Okay, if this is
what you
want to do.
I'm annoyed that she and everyone around us made such a big deal about her never playing again 4 years ago. This is different than a lot. We've seen players that over the years that have been Brett Favre, for example, that are like, this is it, and then the next year he's playing. Oh, that's it. Then he plays again. Right, Aaron Rodgers is doing that to us now. This is different, but it still is just like, I'm remembering 4 years ago her being very non-committal about saying she's retiring, and then she finally comes out and tells Vogue that she's retiring. Like, just don't say anything then. Like, I don't understand why you already get all the attention. You don't need the attention that comes with, is this your last match? Just play. And then if you don't play again, then we know it was your last match.
So this is, I think, a legitimate gripe. This is one thing that is difficult about individual sports. Okay, we get overly obsessed with it when it's not a team sport, when it's an individual sport, right? And this is the all-time cross for combat sports to have to bear, for MMA to have to bear. When there is someone who's a transcendent star in that sport, or in boxing, or in golf, or in tennis, 80% of the fan base is attached to that person. There's like 20% of the fan base that is just a fan of the sport. A humongous portion of your revenue, your marketing, your everything is geared around stars, right? And Serena is the biggest ever women's tennis star. So for her to be flirting with retirement, like, they have real lives. She has a real life, right? But probably from the very beginning, she acknowledged, like, there's going to be a time, I want time away, but there's going to be a time where I want to come back. And we kind of don't allow that, right? Where you say, well, are you retired or not? I'm going to take off 4 years. No, we don't know.
So you're retired.
Wrong answer. 4 years is a retirement. Okay, then I'm retiring, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if she's allowed to say it any other way. And this is like Conor McGregor's coming back. He's fighting in 3 weeks in the UFC. He hasn't fought in 5 years. They never stopped talking about him like he was an active member of the rosters. He broke his leg. He was taking steroids, doing movies, swimming on yachts, selling liquor brands, doing mountains of cocaine. Like, the guy was just a maniac. And every single press conference, when's Conor coming back? When's Conor coming back? We did this with Tiger for a decade. I remember, and this is one of probably my worst hot takes, I distinctly remembered, like, right after the Tiger Woods downfall, right? And then the injuries, and then who knows what else, being like, guys, it's been 7 years since Tiger Woods won anything meaningful. Let's move on. Let's talk about something else. Tiger Woods is never coming back to do anything special in this sport. Shows you how much I know about golf. But I remember just on live radio just being like, can we stop doing this? We don't do this to Michael Jordan. We don't do this to anybody else in any other sport. When is Roger Clemens coming back to pitch? He's been gone for 8 years. Leave him alone, right? And then, of course, Tiger comes back.
Roger Clemens, by the way, was in the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers category for a
He
few
was,
years
he
there.
was.
So this is, and
So-
I acknowledge, and when I air that early grievance of the week, it's only Monday, that it's not all on Serena. It's probably mostly on how she's covered, but it's still just like, I'm just so tired of the contrived farewell tour that has to happen for every star. Like, just stop playing, and then we know that you retired. Like, that's what I wish we'd go back to.
Right, but they're not allowed to just stop playing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? So like, I can't use Phil Mickelson as a good example right now because he's falling from grace, right?
Yeah. And,
Let's say Scotty Scheffler
okay.
just decides he's not playing anymore. And the next 8 tournaments, you don't see Scotty Scheffler in the field, right? The first question is Scotty Scheffler hurt? No? Okay. The next question is there some kind of family emergency going on? No? Okay. Is there something we don't know about? Did he get arrested? No.
Some kind of scandal.
Okay.
Did he get arrested again?
Like, and then you check all these boxes. Like, no, Scotty Scheffler just doesn't want to play golf anymore. Scotty Scheffler is just done, right? Then everyone's just like, so are you retiring?
Right.
And he has to be like, either say, yes, I'm retiring, or he has to give us some answer just like, well, I'm just taking some time off. And then people are like, no, no. That's not we don't accept that answer.
We can't leave it alone till we hear
How long?
if he's retired or
How
not.
long,
Yeah.
Scotty? How long? So
it's true.
And if you don't even know the answer yourself, right? Because a lot of these people just get burnt out. Can you imagine? Most of us cannot. Can you imagine being Serena Williams? She cannot go anywhere. She is as famous as any female athlete has ever been on planet Earth. She can't go anywhere. She's very recognizable. She has a very distinct look. Her physical size, the hair, all of it. Like, you can't hide if you're Serena Williams. I've been in the same room as Serena Williams 0 times. I thought I was because Venus Williams was in the room.
Oh.
And I was just like, oh, wait, that's Venus. But still cool.
Still really cool.
Still really cool, right? But, like, that would get very exhausting, especially when you get married, especially when you start having kids.
Yeah.
But she has kids, right? Like, at some point, you're going to want to just be like, all right, I'm just going to, like, exit the public eye for a while. But then, because we want to know if women's tennis is something we're excited to watch right now, it's more exciting if Serena's involved. So, Serena, are you going to play or are you retired? And she has to come out with, fine, I'm retired. Unretired. Let's go. She's coming to Wimbledon. She's not only playing doubles with her sister Venus, she's going to play singles as well. I hope it's a run. I hope it's a dominant run. I hope that we get something great.
Yeah, and this will not my annoyance with the unretire. I'm not really retired. I'm an unretire thing, waffling thing, and the farewell tours and everything will not skew my experience watching her at Wimbledon. I'm with you. I hope we see a deep run for her and a great return.
You're gonna be sitting back there, arms folded.
I hope she loses in straight sets.
That was first. Unbelievable serve there, Serena, but you should not have told Vogue you were retired. No, I won't have it. Speaking of great female legend in the sports world, Linda Cohn is retiring in a week.
Is she really, though?
The longest tenured SportsCenter anchor has done more SportsCenters than anyone in the history of the show, reporting that the final shows will be Friday, 4, 8, and 9 p.m. That is, how many SportsCenters has she anchored?
So she's over 5,000. They recently had a celebration of her 5,000th SportsCenter. So she's done a lot, OC.
5,650 according to the Google AI overview.
So that was a few years ago then that they had the 5,000th. But yeah.
34 years at, wow. Yeah, she's going to conclude the run June 30th. That is a significant amount of time. Good for Linda Cohn. And for anyone to be in a job for that long, you just have to be. ESPN has gone through how many different iterations, changes, budget cuts, acquisitions. To be a constant through all of that flux is truly remarkable. Because when Disney buys you, they sometimes want to put their own people in, or when you've got to start squeezing down on the budget, and they got rid of some huge names, right? Other guys left voluntarily, but Linda Cohn, congratulations.
She's like the last of. She's not an OG beginning of ESPN SportsCenter anchor, but she's like the last of that. What did you say? 34 years. So it's been early 90s that she joined. Of all those iconic people, Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, who's back with ESPN now, back with SportsCenter, Stuart Scott. There's so many more that joined around that time or a few years later. She's the last of those SportsCenter anchors, and I would guess that most people can't really name many of the others that are on today. That's where the show's gone, but she's definitely a legend.
The first SportsCenter aired in 1979, September 7th, 1979. Chris Berman, George Grant, Greg Gumbel, Lee Leonard, Bob Lay, Sal Marciano, and Lou Palmer.
Yeah, they were the first
anchors.
ones. Yeah,
it's wild. 1979. She's been there, like you said, for 34 years. Congratulations to her. All right, we got a double up here. We'll talk a little World Cup, a little RSL with Jason Kreis, the president of soccer operations for RSL and for the Utah Royals. That's next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Group J action in the FIFA World Cup just went final. Argentina 2-0 over Austria. Leo Messi scored both of those goals. The brace puts him at 18 all-time scoring in the World Cup. Number one alone by himself. Miroslav Klose was the previous holder of that record, and now Messi in this 2026 World Cup has passed him and stands alone. Kylian Mbappe hot on the heels and definitely within striking distance of the record if he continues to play. But a nice game for Argentina again. Talking about that and all things soccer, Jason Kreis, RSL and Utah Royals president of soccer operations, stops by courtesy of our friends over at Beer Bar, your home for World Cup soccer on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Jason, welcome back to the show. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing fine. Doing well. Had a little vacation this past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how much is the the daily grind still on it, or you getting yourself caught up in World Cup love and action like the rest of the American sports fans?
Well, it's interesting because I went to Italy with my wife for our 30th anniversary. We spent 2 weeks over there, and what's strange is when you're in hotels over there, you can't really see much of the World Cup. They don't broadcast all the games,
well, especially because they didn't make it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's maybe because they're a little bit angry. But anyways, I didn't get to see much. But now that I've been back, been watching most of it, and it's been incredible. I was fortunate enough to go to see the U.S. game in Seattle on Friday, and man, what an experience that was. What
an incredible atmosphere. Really, all of these games have had, but especially these U.S. men's national team games. And I've been having soccer people, for lack of a better term, on for the last couple of weeks, and there's always been, I want to say a disconnect, but there's always been sort of like a barrier to entry for the average American sports fan, someone who didn't come up playing soccer, to really jump on board, to really love soccer, to understand the way the rest of the world feels about it. Do you get any sense that this World Cup is helping to break that down at least a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's interesting because I think in the prior 3 World Cups, my experience at least, just even going around our country to different places to see games, I was amazed at the atmosphere in a lot of different places around just watching the games and watching the World Cup. And then it kind of goes away a little bit. So I'm hopeful that in this World Cup, because it's in our country, it's gonna have a broader impact than that, on a more long-lasting impact. And I think it will. I mean, just being around and seeing how much everybody's watching the games and talking about the games, I'm hopeful that this is going to have a massive, massive impact on our soccer culture in our country for many years to come.
And with that, obviously, RSL has, the academy system and homegrown prospects that are now playing at the professional level. And we're seeing on the World Cup stage, some of these countries are fielding guys that are 18, 19, 20 years old. These young players, this next generation of great stars, even as Leo Messi scores a brace in what we expect to be his final World Cup. Plenty of games left to play, I think, for Argentina in this World Cup. But, he and Cristiano Ronaldo, I cannot foresee either of them being involved in the next one. And so this next crop of stars that the world is developing, I mean, can we see that infrastructure? Is our infrastructure in the United States at a place now where we're talking about our guys maybe being in that group eventually, if not in the next one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have several dreams as American soccer people, the first and foremost, and I think ultimately much more important one is for us to actually win a World Cup. But maybe these two things go hand in hand. The second one would be to develop a player that's seen as a truly elite player in the world, a top 3 to top 5 player in the world. And I think we've still got a long way to go with that, but I do think we're heading in a very positive direction. As somebody that's out and watching a lot of the academy games and not only our players, but all the academy players from across the country and all the different MLS teams, I'm really impressed with the work that's being done there. Really impressed with the development of the individual players from a tactical perspective, technical perspective, mental perspective, all the areas. I think we're doing a really nice job. And so, yeah, I think there's absolutely no reason why in the future we couldn't have the next Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo that comes from the U.S.
My explanation, my excuse for why America is not elite in soccer has always been the same one everyone else uses, that it has not been a popular enough sport in the U.S. for the elite athletes to decide that's what they're going to pursue when they're 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. The best athletes in the U.S. end up in American football, or they end up in basketball. Baseball is its own thing, I guess. But I don't know. I don't know if that's a proper explanation. If it ever was, I don't know if it is anymore, because we're this nation of, immigrants, and there's a lot of families that are American now that didn't start out as Americans, who soccer is their first love, and they're funneling their kids into soccer instead. So if we are going to get like a Kylian Mbappe from the U.S., is it because he's going to be the son of immigrants? Or is it going to be like an elite athlete who could be a football player, could be a basketball player, could be a baseball star, chooses soccer instead, maybe because he watched the 2026 World Cup and saw what Messi did or something?
There you go. Yeah, no, I think it's a couple factors. I think one of the factors is to actually be able to visualize heroes, right? And so for a young, aspiring, athletic person in our country, over the past 30, 40 years, right, their heroes were baseball, basketball, and football players. And so they wanted to aspire to be that, because there wasn't even a professional league in our country, and it wasn't like this was the day and age of internet, so you weren't watching the German Bundesliga on the weekends. So I think there's a little bit about that. There's also a little bit about moving up in social economic status, right? I mean, in the majority of their countries, Argentina's, Brazil's of the world, that soccer represents a way for them to essentially get out of the slums, right? And there's just a lot of money in it. And I think for our country, that's always typically, again, been basketball, football, and baseball. But now, as our professional league continues to grow and as our players start to make more and more money, I think it represents that opportunity for our young people as well. So I'm hopeful with the sort of combining of those two things that opportunity exists for us.
I don't know every number that's in your phone, but I hope Tim Howard is in there. I need you to call him and tell him it is un-American to go on television and tell your audience it's impossible for the USA to win this World Cup. That is the thing that we need. That is the final ingredient in the recipe, because we are front runners. As much as we don't like to admit that to ourselves, the reason why we get so excited about the Women's World Cup is because we know that the U.S. has a great chance of winning that thing. You just won the group. Don't throw cold water on my hopes and dreams here, Tim Howard. I mean, I'm obviously being facetious, but there is a certain element to like perpetuating that belief as we ride this wave, isn't there?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's real validity to the idea that what you put out in the world can happen, right? So speaking things into existence. I'm a proponent of that, and so why would you say anything else? I think that there's, that we should all believe. I think that's also part of being an American as well, is to be the eternal optimist. And so that's, my father always taught me that. He was the optimistic guy for sure, as a leader of our family. So I wouldn't say anything less than, yeah, we can do it.
Jason Kreis is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, RSL and Utah Royals president of soccer operations. So now that you're back from Italy and you're having a chance to sit down and watch some of these games, are you able to do it from just a passionate soccer fan perspective, or does the executive mind always, are you always like, okay, that guy who just came in for 8 minutes for Cabo Verde, what can we do to get him to, like, is there any of that going on while you're watching?
Yes, of course. The work never stops in my mind, to be completely frank and honest. And obviously, coaching the game for a long time, I have a love of tactics. So especially when I watch the U.S. play, I'm analyzing the tactics there more than anything else, and trying to figure out whether I agree or disagree with decisions that are being made. So, the job never leaves me, and I'm continually going to look at the smaller countries and the players there and see if there would be opportunity for Real Salt Lake, for sure.
Ignorance has been blissful for me when it comes to watching this U.S. men's national team. I don't know enough to know whether I should be questioning Mauricio Pochettino with his lineups or his formation or the tactics. You do not have that blissful ignorance. So, I think the results speak for themselves, but is there anything on the positive or negative side that a change that he has made that you think is significant here?
Well, I think first and foremost, you said it absolutely correctly, that the results are what matter. In a tournament like this, It's all well and good to play the most attractive soccer. But to be doing that, not getting results would certainly not be good enough. So I'm not going to detract or be a negative person about what I've seen with the U.S. I would say, frankly, I thought in this last game against an opponent that sat back and was very negative, it did prove to be extremely difficult for our team to create goal-scoring chances. And I thought we lacked a little bit of tactical acumen to open the opponent up and to actually create those good chances. But frankly, I don't think that as we enter the knockout stages that we're going to be facing many opponents that are going to try to put all 11 players behind the ball and within 40 yards of their own goal. I think the opposite might be true. So I don't put a whole lot of weight into what I saw in that game, other than to say I would have liked to see us be a little bit more tactically astute to create more goal scoring chances.
What do you expect from the final game of group play? Because you're going against a team that's eliminated. You have won the group already. That change when you don't have pressure, or the pressure has changed on both sides. Like it could alter the dynamic of the game. So how do you anticipate this next one playing out?
It's difficult, really difficult to say. All I could say is that if I was coaching the team, I would certainly start with number one, anybody that has a yellow card doesn't play, because I'm not going to take the risk that they're not going to be available for the first knockout stage. And number two, I would look at it as an opportunity to get more players out there playing minutes to show me what they're capable of and to earn the trust. Because to go through the knockout stage, that there's going to be injuries, there could be potential suspensions, and to have a deeper group of players that already feels like, okay, I got my opportunity, I'm in this tournament, I did well, I'm ready when I'm called upon. I think that's meaningful. So I would like to see him make 5, 6 changes. I think there's 3 or 4 guys that have yellow cards. Those guys wouldn't play, but I'd like to see another 2 or 3 changes as well, just to get more players involved in this tournament, such that if we need them in the latter stages, they are ready and ready to rock.
I'm not going to lie to you, Jason. I thought that there would be some opportunity for us, maybe even in group play, to come on air and say, you would have been better off if you had Moon Man on this roster. That wouldn't have happened to Team USA if Diego Luna was out there for them. I guess, thankfully, from a patriotic perspective, that hasn't happened yet. But have you seen anything, even as he is not on the roster, where maybe he or any of the RSL guys, Goza, whoever, would have fit in to this formation, fit into this U.S. men's national team roster, and been a help?
Yeah, I think starting off with the fact that the U.S. in possession is playing the same game model that RSL plays, I think that would be useful, and the likes of Luna and Goza would fit into that seamlessly. I would say, again, against Australia, against a team that was sitting back so deeply, we needed a player like Diego Luna to come into that game that could potentially unlock it. Now, obviously, we won the game 2-0. But I do think that an opponent like that is the exact opponent that you want to have a Diego Luna against, with his creativity and his ability to create things individually. I think that could have helped us a bit.
Have you spoken with him directly, privately, since he was omitted from the roster?
Yeah, of course. Was very concerned for him and also disappointed. Very disappointed, I think, for our club, but also for Diego, and a lot of it just didn't quite make sense to me. So I was worried about how he would take it, and I think he's obviously done a very good job. This is a kid that has literally come from nothing and has always been a fighter. So I don't see the situation being any different. He's just going to have to get back out there and fight and show that he belongs for the national team games that are coming up after this World Cup in the fall. There'll be opportunity, and for him to show that he should be a part of that group going forward.
What are your RSL guys up to today? When does the work begin again, or begin in earnest again for them?
Actually, they all got 3 weeks off from our last game at Minnesota, and they started training Wednesday of last week.
Okay. So
now they'll be in training. We have a friendly game against Nashville this weekend, and Nashville actually came out to Salt Lake here to train for a week. We'll play a friendly game with them on Saturday, and then from there going forward, we'll have like regular sort of friendly matches to prepare our players. It's essentially a second preseason is exactly what it is.
Burnley coming in mid-July. Is Burnley the J.J. Watt team? Does he own a piece of that?
Yeah, it is. And also Alan Pace, who's from Utah, and Dave Checketts are both. And Alan's actually the chairman of the board, the principal owner of the team, and then Dave Checketts is on their board. So a lot of familiar faces.
It shows you exactly where my dumb football brain works when I think of a soccer team. Well, there's an NFL guy associated with that one, and I leave out the important Utah figures in it. So, what is the ramp up like for when you're in these friendlies and you're coming off an international break, especially for a team that does not have guys on the U.S. men's national team, has not sent an entire roster full of players out for international duty. What is the ramp up like? Like, what's the emphasis in training right now?
Yeah, in training right now, it's just about getting the guys physically back up to a place where they can play 90 minutes. Thankfully, we did a fitness test for the guys actually on their second day back, and the fitness level showed to be pretty good. And then as we get closer to the season, or closer to the renewal of the season, I should say, then it's going to be about really fine tuning things and preparing them to fight for the second half of the season. So the Burnley game is on the 15th, which is 1 week exactly prior to our MLS return, which that game is on the 22nd at LAFC. So that game is going to be a time for us to really fine tune things with our starting group. And so the fans can expect to see a really strong lineup out there to play against a Burnley team that will be in the middle stages of their preseason. So it should be I think it's going to be a great game and a great experience for everybody to see our guys after for so long off, but also to see what a team that was just in the Premiership last year, what those players might look like.
I would be remiss if I didn't also ask you about this Utah Royals squad that's been off to a really good start in their season, and number 2. This is the NWSL is a product that, like a lot of women's sports, is having its moment in American culture, but also I think we need to amplify it more. And I mean, I don't follow it enough. I'm not doing a good enough job making sure that I'm asking the right questions and getting out there and things like that. But what do we need to know about the Royals and what we can do to support this NWSL?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic group of young women. It really is. They are. I started working with them almost exactly a year ago. I was very hesitant and nervous about it because I had, frankly, never worked with women's sports at all. And it's just been such a rewarding experience because these young ladies are not only ambitious and terrific professionals, but they're fantastic people, and so thankful of everything that we do for them, and the resources that we've been able to put behind them has been nothing short of spectacular. The Miller family has been aligned with me and the other leadership to really put the right amount of support around our players, from a medical and health perspective to a performance perspective. And we've done they have provided some real strong support, and I think we're seeing dividends for that. The girls have a tight knit group as a team, and have just performed. I think from a performance and athletic perspective, have performed extremely well this year. So I think we're getting a lot of dividends paid from the work that's been put in and from the resources that have been put behind this group. So. If you haven't been out to a game, I tell you should come. We've started to get more and more fans. The atmosphere of the games has been fantastic, and the team is nothing short of phenomenal. They're second place in the league, but I think we have a game or two in hand. So we handle that the right way, we'll be back in first place.
I got some family coming in, and we're coming to I think the game against Gotham is the one we plan on July 10th. Is the one we're planning on, and it'll be my first. I'm really excited about it. Like I said, I have family coming in to visit, and that was one of the things. We got to check that box. We want to go to a Royals game, and I was like, sweet. I think I can make that happen. So I'll be calling someone in your building to try to get some kind of hookup.
You got it. You can call me. Because it's funny because I have an extended family coming in at that same time, and we're also all going to be at the game.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy the rest of this World Cup. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time helping me. I'm jumping on the bandwagon, Jason. I'm well late to it, but I'm jumping on the bandwagon, and I think we need results on the men's side in order for the country to really join me in crowding along with the people like you who've been on this thing the whole way.
Awesome. Welcome aboard.
That's Jason Kreis, RSL and Utah Royals president of soccer operations. World Cup talk brought to you by Beer Bar. RSL back in action with some friendlies. Burnley FC coming in July 15th at 7:30 p.m. If you want to check that out. The Utah Royals will be back at America First Field. Looks like that July 10th game. They're back in action July 5th in Chicago, but July 10th and then July 18th they're at America First Field. So we'll see you out there at the park, I suppose.
Yeah, I wonder how they were able to arrange that friendly, OC, with they don't know, the organizations don't know each other at all. It's really fun to hear. I knew Spence had mentioned on the air about his dad, Dave Checketts, being involved in Burnley. I didn't know that Alan Pace was a Utah and the chairman of the board there. That's pretty cool.
I must have missed. I unfortunately ignore Spence far too often when we're having conversations, and I must have forgotten that his dad was involved in Burnley. Now, like I said, I'm a dumb football guy, so when J.J. Watt is part of the ownership group, I'm like, oh, okay, that's his team.
That stands out to you, yeah.
That's his team. And obviously his wife is from here too, so like there's two Utah connections.
So you got Alan Pace, the chairman of the board, who's a Utah connection there. You got Dave Checketts, the former owner of RSL, and we all know what Dave Checketts has been involved in. And then Keelia Watt, J.J. Watt's wife, is from Draper. So that one was probably an easy one to set up for RSL.
Sincere thanks to Jason Kreis and everyone who comes on to talk soccer with me, because I know what it's like having rudimentary conversations about a sport that you are possessed of advanced knowledge over, right? Like when I have MMA or combat sports conversations with people who it's just not their thing, I enjoy it, but I don't know if everyone does. I enjoy it, but I don't know if everyone in those shoes likes to have to explain the very basics to me when I'm talking soccer. So I really do sincerely appreciate Jason Kreis giving us that time. And the gap between attention and passion for soccer and some of our other American sports, it doesn't have to be as large as it is, even for me, right? There's only a certain amount of bandwidth, but like I'm not lying when I'm saying I'm jumping on this bandwagon, and I think part of it is because a lot of the tactic, a lot of the motion, a lot of the, especially how goals are set up in soccer, is similar to what we see in hockey, right? You can see that final couple of passes. You can see the puck motion across the face of the goal, or in the case of soccer, obviously, it's across the face of the goal. And the scale is different, and the number of players is obviously different, but you can see some of it like coming together, and that, for whatever reason, has helped me connect those dots a little bit more. But
yeah, watching this Argentina match, which another incredible performance by Messi, as you talked about with Jason. I mean, what else is there to say about the guy? But I found myself going, oh, it's kind of in the neutral zone, in the middle of the field there. Just like, I'm like, wow. Apparently hockey's really helped me understand soccer a little bit more.
A random fan just popped up on the studio show behind Rob Stone and the guys and just started talking to him. Let's fire up the security a little bit more. Argentina 2-0 over Austria. Let's get back into some conversation about what's going to happen tomorrow for the Utah Jazz. How critical is this juncture for the Utah Jazz franchise? We are 28 hours away from when their pick will actually be in, 29 hours away when their pick will actually be in. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. 877-353-0700. That's how you text me. Tell me right now, this number 2 draft pick that the Utah Jazz hold tomorrow night, when we're sitting there at the engine room, 1388 South, 300 West, and either A.J. DeBonsa or Darren Peterson, here's their name called, as the number 2 overall pick to the Utah Jazz, how critical is it that works out for the existence of this franchise as like the number 1 pillar of professional sports in the state of Utah? Now, the Smith Entertainment Group is in a really, I think, comfortable and unique position in that even if the Utah Jazz stuff falls off the rails, they got a good thing going on with the Utah Mammoth. So if the NBA thing is not ideal, well, your NHL thing steps in to take the place. Or I guess if you're Ryan Smith and you are now a stakeholder of sorts in BYU athletics and BYU athletics is really thriving, then you feel good about that one as well. I'm trying to articulate for myself, not even just for you, for myself, my feelings on just how crucial this draft is for the Utah Jazz. Because, again, it's odd. It's like that Christmas when you were 11 and you knew the present you were going to get. It was going to be one of two things. It was going to be that bicycle or it was going to be the PlayStation, and you were like, all right, man, I'm happy with either outcome. And, of course, you know, they're both formative for you. The bicycle gives you a level of independence. You can ride around the neighborhood. You go see your friends. The PlayStation probably doesn't actually do anything good for you, but you create a bunch of fun memories with it. If A.J. DeBonsa is the bicycle and that's your number 1 choice, but you don't get it, you're still happy when Darren Peterson, a.k.a. PlayStation, ends up under the tree for you. But what if it turns out that you stink at playing PlayStation and you lose? And you're like, if it doesn't work out, we know who the draft pick is going to be. It's going to be one of those two, or I guess there's some weird outlier possibility that it's Cam Boozer. But if it doesn't work out, if that individual, and I think there's a lot of more question marks around Darren Peterson than there are around A.J. DeBonsa, if that guy doesn't work out after you've tanked and after you've aggressively pursued this draft pick, if that doesn't work out, to me it doesn't feel like it's a Dante Exum situation. To me, it feels like the sky is falling because you have built your whole franchise identity, your whole franchise last 3 years around achieving this. You thought, hey, man, let's sag for flag. Let's go after that Cooper Flag pick. Let's stink for this. For whatever reason, you didn't do it as aggressively for Victor Wembanyama, much to the chagrin of plenty of people. But for Flag, you were going all in on being terrible. And it didn't work out. But Ace Bailey was a happy little consolation prize. It worked out okay. The consolation prize here is not – you're not going to feel that way about it, right? Ace Bailey has been a pleasant outcome and surprise because you were disappointed initially. You're not disappointed initially here. You're happy with the result. You're excited about number 2. So if number 2 doesn't work out to be really excellent, potentially great for you, that's when the disappointment comes in. There's no pleasant surprise with Darren Peterson. There's going to be no pleasant surprise with A.J. DeBonsa. That guy has to be a what? A multiple-time All-Star? A franchise player?
Yeah, he's got to be whoever they pick number 2. I mean, number 2 overall with the way that the top 3 guys in this draft have been talked about, particularly A.J. DeBonsa and Darren Peterson, the way that they've been talked about, Tracy McGrady, Kobe, those type of comparisons, you're not just looking for a multiple-time All-Star. That needs to be maybe not the best player in the league, but it's got to be an All-NBA player. It's got to be like the guy you traded away 4 years ago, Donovan Mitchell. Probably better.
Okay, let's go back 15 years, all right? Just for the sample size. Actually, just because there's some more recognizable names, let's go back, and I'm gonna ask you, James. Satisfied or disappointed with the outcome on the number 2 pick
Okay.
over these last 20 years-ish, okay?
All right.
LaMarcus Aldridge to the Bulls.
At draft night trade to the Blazers, so
Correct.
really to the Blazers, yeah.
The Blazers were happy with LaMarcus
Yeah,
Aldridge too.
I would say satisfied. Yeah.
Kevin Durant, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
Michael Beasley,
Not satisfied.
okay? Hashim Thabit,
Yeah, bust. Yep,
Okay.
not satisfied.
okay? Evan Turner,
Not satisfied, although he did have a really long career, but not satisfied.
okay? Derek Williams,
Not satisfied.
Michael Kidd-Gilchrist.
Nope.
Rest in peace, Bobcats, by the way.
Yeah.
I could not stand the Bobcats' existence. It was a terrible name. It was a terrible look. The whole thing bothered me. Victor Oladipo,
Yeah.
okay?
Obviously, with Oladipo, obviously would have been much better had he not gotten the injuries. So, but he was he had a nice career. Yeah. Especially in that compared to that draft class.
All right, here's another one with some strong Utah ties. Jabari Parker.
Yeah, no.
Okay. D'Angelo Russell in 2015.
No, I mean, there might be some people that think he has earned it, but I don't think that he's earned that.
Okay. Brandon Ingram.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Lonzo Ball.
No.
Okay. Marvin Bagley III.
Definitely not.
Ja Morant.
Yeah, but
Talent-wise, yeah.
and he's definitely, if his career ended today and you were only looking at the basketball, he's lived up to the hype
Yes.
in his career. He just, unfortunately, it's more than basketball with him.
James Wiseman to the Warriors.
Yeah, no.
Jalen Green to the Rockets.
No, but plenty of time for him still.
Okay. Chet Holmgren.
I would say netting out, yes, but a terrible end of the season.
Yeah.
So you got question marks there.
Recency bias aside, you're happy with him at number 2. Brandon Miller.
No.
Alex Sarr.
Well, I'm sorry. Brandon Miller, for now, yes.
Let's be on the fence with Brandon Miller.
Yeah.
Okay. Alex Sarr.
Yeah, same thing. Still need more. We need more of a sample size.
Okay.
with him.
And Dylan Harper. So these guys, these
Dylan Harper, absolutely in the playoffs.
Right. These most recent guys. So what I just did, there were 10 guys that were busts at number 2.
That were like definitely not on the fence bus kind of thing.
And then there were like 3 guys that are kind of on the fence. And then there's the recency, like we'll see, to be determined. But there's like 10 guys that were busts.
Yeah.
That's how critical this is for the Utah Jazz, because it was probably, I mean, I don't remember exactly what the conversation was like in 2009 when the Grizzlies drafted Hashim Thabit.
Who do you have the whole? You don't have that pulled up anymore, do you?
I do.
Do you have who was behind the beat? Like the
this is just the
picks. Is this?
sorry,
just
this is
number
just
two?
the number 2
I'm
picks.
gonna pull it up while you talk. Yeah.
So, and again, drafting is such an inexact science, and we have perhaps deluded ourselves with this draft in particular into a belief that the outcome with these players individually is certain and assured, that A.J. DeBonsa is going to be a great NBA basketball player. I remember thinking that Zion Williamson was a no-brainer NBA All-Star MVP candidate. I remember watching him play and not realizing that level of amplitude and the reliance on being the physical powerhouse that he was in college was just not going to translate as effectively to the NBA. Even if there were no questions about work ethic and weight control and things like that, I would remember thinking like, oh, that guy is just a monster, because you fall in love with the traits. You fall in love with the acrobatics, the high flying, the dominance, right? You get sucked into like, look, he blew up a shoe because he's so powerful, right?
And the acrobatics, even the stuff that weren't dunks, I still remember the highlight block, volleyball style block against Virginia, where he like nearly jumped as high as the guy shooting for as tall as the 3-point shooter was, and he smacked it into the stands. Like you saw that and you went, oh yeah, he's gonna be great at defense too. It hasn't worked out for him from a health standpoint. 2009, by the way, the guy picked right behind to beat was James Harden.
Okay, all right.
For OKC. That just not a good pick for Memphis. That was Steph Curry's draft. Ricky Rubio was in the lottery there. DeMar DeRozan was in the lottery. There was a lot of good players. Memphis just picked the wrong one at number 2 at the sheet to beat.
So, and look, maybe there were GMs and personnel guys around the league that were pounding the table saying, "What are you doing?" I don't remember. I truly don't. Whether or not, maybe there were people who were saying, like, go get DeRozan. Why are you picking this guy? But in this draft, where there is, I think, less argument about who the correct player is in these top 3, top 4, it's still hypercritical because the individuality of these players matters more in basketball than it does in any other sport. The ability of these guys to live up to the expectation matters more for the Utah Jazz than it does for most teams right now. Because if your final product after this rebuild is Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Keontae George, Ace Bailey, you are a play-in team every year. That's it. If you are all the aforementioned, plus some nice bench pieces, plus a multiple-time All-Star, now we're at least entertaining the possibility of something else. Now we're talking about at least maybe like a Rudy Gobert Mitchell type Jazz. At least. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
You want more than that, but you're right. Hopefully that's the baseline with this.
Like, if you can get to that, then we're going to say, all right, you have these pillars. You have these building blocks. Now, Austin Ainge, Danny Ainge, now work your magic. Let's see what else you can do. You have to have those.
Fill out the rest on the margins. Absolutely. I'll say this. Ace Bailey's the flashes that Ace Bailey showed last year, that he showed, hey, I can live up to the immense potential that I was thought to have going into my freshman year at Rutgers, right? That kind of hedges what happens with this draft a little bit. If for whatever reason, we're just going to assume AJ goes to Washington and the Jazz pick Darren Peterson. If for whatever reason, health, not a good fit, whatever, he doesn't live up to the hype, but Ace Bailey does and exceeds it, you probably net out just fine that way. So I would say it's potentially not quite as devastating if the player you get at number 2 overall doesn't quite work out to the level you want him to. But you obviously still want him to work out the way you want to, because you could be a title team in a few years if Ace Bailey and Darren Peterson, if that's the pick, end up being superstars. That's kind of why I make the assertion I make. And I'm glad that you brought Ace Bailey into the conversation, because he deserves to be in the conversation. But it can't be this year's number 2 overall pick or Ace Bailey working out. It has to be an and proposition. Do you know why it has to be an and proposition? Because Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle and Victor Wembanyama are on the same team. Yeah, they've all worked out so far.
Right? Because Oklahoma City is the 3rd youngest team in the NBA or whatever they are. Like, it has to be and propositions. It cannot be an or. And I wish it was. I wish you had that kind of wiggle room. You actually can't say, I hope that Walker Kessler works out to be an elite all-league Rudy Gobert type defender, or this number 2 pick works out okay, or Ace Bailey works out okay, or Keontae George continues his growth and becomes an all-star. Unfortunately, if you want to talk NBA titles, you need an and on all of those. You need an and on at least 3 of the 4. You need an improved Walker Kessler. You need an improved Keontae George. You need an improved Ace Bailey. And then you can say, all right, we'll do or on the number 2 pick now. But there's too many things that have to go right if you want to contend for real, because you don't have the megastar. At least not that we're aware of. Maybe Darren Peterson can be that. I mean, when we had the, why is his name escaping me right now? The Kansas play-by-play guy.
Yeah.
When we had, it'll come into my mind. When we had him on and he's like, I really think his ceiling is Kobe. It's like, okay, well, if that's what it ends up being, if he ends up being Kobe Bryant, now all of this blowhard stuff I'm shouting about means nothing. But relying
Brian Haney, shout
Brian
out.
Haney, that's right. Sorry, Haney. Relying on that is just stupid. Expecting or anticipating that is foolish. Well, he's going to turn into a generationally great player. He's going to be a top 10 player in the history of the league. What you want is someone who can be a top 10 player in the current league.
Yeah.
You need someone who could be a top 15 player in the current league and hope that you've got number 12 on your team, you've got number 17 on your team, you got number 28 on your team. Now you're cooking with gas. All right? If you have two of those, I just don't think it's enough because I'm looking at San Antonio and they got some problems. They got to work out how to perform under pressure, but you're not even there to make them crack under pressure if you don't have this and that and that and that. I love or propositions in my own life because I'm like, would you like a chocolate chip cookie or would you like ice cream? In the NBA, it demands, no, I want both. I want and.
I want the chocolate chip cookie ice cream sandwich. Thank you very much.
And I want whipped cream on top of it. And I want one of those little maraschino cherries.
Absolutely.
And because this is Utah, I want to wash it down with a swig. That's just too much. You've now given yourself diabetes. I want and.
It's the NBA. We need and.
The realistic thing for a Jazz fan right now, and unfortunately this is true, by the way, Utah fans, BYU fans, it's all true. In sports right now, you can't have a great quarterback or a great defense. If you want to win, you have to have and. We are living in an and world. I need this, and I need that, and I need that. I don't just get to have a nice car or a nice house. This is Utah, baby. You're keeping up with the Joneses. You got to have a hot wife and a nice car and a good house and a cool dog. I said all those things because I have them all.
I see.
See what I did there?
A little bias there.
Shout out to the hot wife. What's up, girl? Anyway, take a break.
Incredible radio right there.
Got to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to give away. Do we have something to give away today?
We do not today.
We'll give away
later
James Peterson bonus points. I do have a fun trivia question for you.
Try to get those cocktail napkins tomorrow at the engine room.
The engine room, 1388 South, 300 West. We'll start at 6 o'clock for our NBA draft show. OC, Spence, Gordy, Smitty, breaking it down all through the first round. Little crosstalk next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Crosstalk on the Sean O'Connell Show, brought to you by our friends over at Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more, and a lifetime warranty on those windows. Give them a call, tell them OC sent you, or go to advancedwindows.com. Fun fact, Leo Messi has scored 5 World Cup goals this year. He is now atop the all-time standings by himself, 18 in his illustrious career. How many goals have his teammates scored? 877-353-0700. We don't actually have anything cool to give away today, but I just want you to answer the question anyway. Tell you what, a lot of people are going to talk about the goals he did score. I'm focused on the fact that he missed a penalty kick. I don't get the hype, ladies and gentlemen. You could add another hat trick, Leo, and you screwed it up. Not even on frame from the spot. Give me a break, Spence.
Embarrassing. Overrated. Right? I mean, let's just find someone needs to say it out loud.
I'm glad that we are the ones who finally said what needed to be said.
Like, is he even good? Let's put the greatest of all time aside for a moment. Like,
Yes.
Would he even be in the rotation for the Utah Jazz? he wouldn't even get playing time. What is he, 5'5"? Let's stop talking about this guy like he's amazing.
It's a great point.
By the way, the record's about to belong to this fellow that's about to play. He's got 14 goals, and he's like 27.
Yeah, Kylian Mbappe in France. Noted PFL fight fan Kylian Mbappe, by the way.
Oh, really?
He's been to 3 of our events. So
Any that you were working?
all of which I worked.
Did you meet him?
I did not met him, unfortunately.
I was going to say, have you met him? Did you meet him?
No, unfortunately, that's one of the downsides of being on the broadcast is like these really cool celebrities show up, and I just get to be like, point at them sometimes, thumbs up occasionally.
Never interview them on the broadcast or anything?
We did that for a while, and it turns out people hate it. So,
The people that you're interviewing?
well, they hate it, but also, like, fight fans are very – I mean, it'd be like watching a World Cup game, and then they're just like, Marshawn Lynch wants to say something about the soccer game.
Makes sense.
And all the soccer fans would be like, who's this? Shut up.
Break down the rear naked chokehold, Sean. I don't
Yeah.
care that Kylian Mbappe is in the building.
Yeah, we had I've told the story before, but we had Victor Wembanyama show up at one of the ones in France, and he couldn't stand up for the whole night because as soon as he stands up, everyone knows where he is.
Right.
If he stays seated, he's the same height as everyone else. So he had to stay seated the whole night after he got into the arena. So bad.
So Wemby's a fight fan.
Yeah, Wemby's a fight fan.
Very nice.
Wemby, he did that whole like Shaolin monk training stuff.
That's
Like,
right,
He's
wow.
into martial arts.
There he is.
I think he's probably more into martial arts than he is into fighting is the sense I get
Yeah.
because, some people are really into like the breath work and the discipline factor and the meditative state. And I'm more of like I just like to punch people in the head. So
No spiritual part of the fight game for you?
actually 0,
Literally 0.
literally none.
No breath work.
No,
No meditating.
I am not a martial artist. Like, I love the martial arts guys.
Yeah.
Like George St. Pierre. I have a ton of respect for him. I think it's so cool. He's all about self-mastery and discipline and all this great stuff. And it's wonderful. I like fighting. I'm not a martial artist. I like to fight.
This is a microcosm of the way you live your life.
Correct.
Okay. Not very balanced.
Correct.
Bowl in a china shop. Happy Father's Day, by the way.
Thank you.
Anything
And to you.
fun? Thank you. Anything fun, exciting?
Just regular dad day. It was cool.
Okay.
We got some. I got some gear got some clothes from my wife, who is I think mostly embarrassed by my regular wardrobe, so continues to fill it out with things she picks.
Is she? I'm going to ask you this. I know the answer. She's not necessarily a bargain hunter the way you are. Is that safe to say?
That's right.
So you guys balance each other out.
Yeah, sure.
So your tendency to be extremely cheap is out of necessity.
My tendency to be extremely cheap is hopelessly outpaced by her opposite behavior, but it's as close as balance can be achieved in
All
a
right.
couple,
Okay.
right?
You guys are hanging in.
There's a yin
doing
and a
the thing.
yang.
There you go.
There's a yin and a yang to
There you
all
go.
of it.
The newest member of the Utah Jazz tomorrow night will be who?
Darren Peterson.
That's where I am with it as well. And I think that's what they should do. If AJ's 1 and he's there at 2. I heard you guys talking about the importance of getting this right tomorrow. And you made a really good point about the totality of the rosters. Like, Shea's awesome, Wemby's awesome, but both teams are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you have to have 4 or 5 guys, and hopefully more than that. Oklahoma City, they have a lottery pick. Oklahoma City has a lottery pick this year. And
thankfully not the Jazz's lottery pick.
Correct. I mean, it is 11 or 12. I can't remember which one, but still, they are going to add another lottery pick, and I don't know where he's going to play. There's no room for him. He's going to play on their G League team next year.
League.
Whoever's – and by the way, every player, there is a clear line of delineation between 4 and everybody else, but between 5 and 15 are 10 really good basketball
they're still
players.
Really good players.
And Oklahoma City has shown wherever they've been able to draft, they typically pick the right player. Like Cason Wallace, what was he, 18 or 20? So they're going to pick another really good player at 12. So the point you were making is spot on. If you're just a novice basketball fan, you know who Shea is, you know who Wemby is. But San Antonio, Keontae last year, very impressive. Okay, 7-game series against San Antonio. Guess who guards Keontae George? It's Stephon Castle for 7 games. What does Keontae look like against Stephon Castle when you're trying to beat San Antonio 4 times in 7 tries?
Well, the answer to that question is a lot different if you have drafted the next Stephon Castle or you've drafted the next Champagny, for hell's sake. I don't know. That's the thing is you have to get this thing right. And because there's no, in my opinion, there's no real question about, well, did you choose the right guy? Because no one is going to be like, why did they choose Darren Peterson at 2? Or why did they choose A.J. DeBonsa at 2?
Right.
I don't even think that many people would question if they chose Cam Boozer at 2. More people, but not a ton, right? Then the onus becomes one of development, one of communication with the player, and setting that guy up to succeed as a professional. But a lot of it is now an individual responsibility for whoever that person is, and that's where it gets scary for me.
Mm-hmm.
I trust the Angels, right? They know more about basketball than I could ever hope to know. So they're going to pick the right guy, but then that guy has to live up to being the right guy. Because you can't have a really good Ace Bailey or a really good Darren Peterson. You have to have both if you want to compete.
Yeah, and look, the reality is every year, this is a unique year because of what most basketball people believe to be a number of different, I don't want to say can't miss, but every year there's a player that's categorized as I can't miss that completely misses. Greg Oden, Stromile Swift, Anthony Bennett. I mean, we could sit here all day and talk about players that were supposed to be this or that and never turned out to be this or that for whatever reason, because there are so many variables that have to fall into place for a young player to step in and play very well right away and then eventually develop into what we all believe he can develop into. But it's so far from a sure thing. And every year there's a player that's drafted between 12 and 17 that turns out to be Kawhi or Giannis or whatever. It's a difficult thing for all these pieces to fall into place, but based off of the team they have right now, if they get this right, it really can, in maybe 3 to 5 years, put them in that category of teams that will be throwing punches in the Western Conference. It's not realistic to expect them to do it next year no matter who they draft. But if they draft the right player and Ace keeps growing and Keontae keeps growing and, the vets continue to not age suddenly like a Markkanen or Jaren Jackson Jr. in their late 20s, in 3 to 5 years, I think we could have something pretty special. It's not realistic to expect it overnight, but if they get it right tomorrow night in 3 to 5 years, we could be in for some really exciting basketball.
We will be doing our draft special down at the Engine Room, 1388 South, 300 West. Gordy Chiesa, Richard Smitty Smith, Spence Checketts, myself, going through the entire first round of tomorrow night's NBA draft.
Will you give out free high fives tomorrow?
Free?
I know. For a cheap guy, I mean, how about 50 cents per high five? Get you out of there.
I'll do it for 25 cents.
25 cents per high five.
Yeah.
How much money are you going to walk away from with tomorrow night?
I'm going to go with 0 cents.
Zero? You get 0 high fives?
No one's going to pay me for a high five.
A quarter? I think people would pay a quarter for a Sean O'Connell high five.
I actually think no one carries cash anymore.
Yeah.
But you can Venmo me a quarter, and I'll give you even a fist bump in that case.
Just send aggressive amount of Venmo requests for 25 cents throughout the night? Okay.
Wow. Daffodil International University in Dhaka, Bangladesh,
Because
out
of course.
in Leo Messi and Argentina supporters, man. The World Cup really is something
It's
unique.
awesome.
It really is
It's
cool.
so cool. Like, you do not have to be a soccer fan to appreciate the spectacle. And as I've said, if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. I don't think any of us over here in America have any idea what this means to people worldwide. I don't think we even have a small frame of reference for it.
I think that's probably accurate.
I mean, you see in Bangladesh, there's 30,000 people wearing Messi jerseys in some random school. Like, I can remember when Messi first signed with MLS, and our guy Trey, cute little bird, cutest little bird. I asked him, I'm like, what does Leo Messi mean on a worldwide scale? And he compared him to Jesus Christ, which felt aggressive.
Yeah.
Then he won the World Cup, and there was wailing and gnashing of teeth. Folks were celebratory worldwide, tears running down their face. And like, look, I don't know Jesus personally. I don't know Messi personally. But if you see the way people react to our Lord and Savior, it's not a far cry from the way people react to one Leo Messi.
Well,
You get right with your maker, Sean.
I
A lot of work to do.
was about to make a really terrible joke about one not missing a penalty kick, but we're gonna leave that alone.
In sandals.
Stay tuned for the Drive with Spence Checketts. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll do it again tomorrow on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.